After a little bit of a false start there and the rarity that we actually catch a technical issue before we get fully into the show, welcome to Beerfield. I am at Beerfield Hop with 2 P's, as always, joined by Beerfield Theory with 2 S. I think I finally got that intro down after a few episodes of it. I think you changed things up on me, and I think I finally got it. Changed. Podcast is at Beerfield. So we got a lot to get into today, as normal.
Yes.
But first, housekeeping items. Sundays. We are only doing 1 show a week in season. Why? Because we don't feel the need to force feed you starts, sits, waiver claims, etc. There's a lot of good people you can go get that information from. We want to hit the high notes, some of the low notes, and then we want to spend Sundays answering your questions. And we want to spend Sundays focusing on start sits and focusing on where betting lines are at after we do an initial preview on some of the early lines and prop bets and things like that. Our Sunday shows have gone from 30, 45-minute endeavors to hour and a half, 2 hours as we prep for game day. And we're starting them early. Now, that's something we did last year, and I think a lot of shows have moved to start now at 10 instead of 11. So, we'll assess and see how we keep going. But please make sure you subscribe on YouTube at Beerfield Podcast there. Well, not at, but Beerfield Podcast there. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you hit the notification icon. And then you come hang out with us because guess what? We don't have a lot of listeners. It's a bad thing and a good thing, right? It's a good thing because if you got a question, we're going to talk it out and we're going to get you an answer, and you may go with it, you may not. If you listen to us on Cortland Sutton last week, you're really happy. I'm sure there's something we got wrong, too.
Let me think. Let us think. What did we get wrong? I don't know.
There's nothing. There really might not be anything major that stands out, honestly.
Yeah.
On that front. I can't. I'm sure there's something. We get something wrong every week. There's got to be something. We just haven't gone back to
we're so numb to it that we just don't even think about it anymore.
We don't. I don't feel that bad. We focus on the positive. The positive here was Cortland Sutton.
That's right. He is going to keep feasting.
He is indeed going to keep feasting. And we will actually not get to that later. That's actually the mention you're going to get of Cortland Sutton in this show. We might talk about it when we get to the Broncos preview. But that's kind of expected. Anyway, let's go into what is fueling Beerfield, and then we'll get off to the races.
What's fueling Beerfield?
All right, Dan, what are you drinking?
I got some pretty special. Obviously, it's a kind of important week for myself.
It is.
So I decided to do and crack open into my Buzz Bomb. This is very local, hyper local to the Springfield area where I'm currently living. I'm drinking their barrel-aged Batch 100. This thing has been sitting in my fridge for what feels like 2 years now. I've been thinking about not bringing it on, but we're back here. So Batch 100 is their barrel-aged brown ale. Their Firefight Brown has been their flagship beer. It was the first beer that they bottled, then canned. They've done multiple variants of them. I've drank them all, and I finally got around to the BA Batch 100. This clocks in at 14%.
Very nice. All right, I've also broken out a little bit more of a limited release beer, something we're probably only going to see once. I don't know that for sure, but this is a collaboration between Shared, which is a side project company. Side project, very, very well known down here.
Should be known worldwide. They were ranked number 2 brewery in the world in 2020.
Yes. Number 2 brewery in the world in 2020. Hazy's for side project, actually, they're more they do a lot of interesting things, right?
Yeah.
They do a lot
That's a good way to put it. That's a really good way to put it.
Sours, farmhouses, barrel-aged experiments, things like that. Not really known for their hazies, but they do have a project called Shared, which is a collaboration thing that they do with some smaller breweries. So they did this one with Mill Pond. Mill Pond Brewing and Incubator. The incubator part is very, very interesting. Is a place over in Millstadt, Illinois, which is about 30 minutes from me. The owner, Brian Schubert, is a member of my homebrew club. So this is a combo beer from them. It is called Float. It is a New England style IPA. So very limited release on this one. The incubator part of Mill Pond, by the way, is actually, before the pandemic hit, and they're doing some of this now where they actually want to bring in people that, prospect want to run a brewery but aren't kind of on the fence about it in this area. Get them in there, kind of show them how to brew at large scale. Get their batches on, and then actually put it on tap there, sell it, see how it's going to do. It's really kind of the idea. We're going to incubate, the potential next wave of craft breweries down here. So really cool thing from them to listen to more of that. The Stubborn German podcast, Stubborn German, another brewery that's close to me, actually has a full episode with Brian talking about Mill Pond, what they do, the incubator concept, that type of stuff. So.
That's a pretty dope thing.
And if you're a craft beer nerd, you get to listen to two local brewers nerd out. So
I'm pretty sure the Shared project is just the collection. I mean, I think the base of it is just the collection of some of the brew people that work for side project, and then they're letting them essentially make their own stuff. It's not letting one or two people do it, but I think I'm pretty sure it's just letting people that work for them, other brewers that work for them, make their own beers or brew their own stuff underneath the Shared name. Pretty dope stuff they do over there.
Yeah, they do
side project.
A lot of cool things over there.
Yeah.
So
pretty dope.
All right, cool. As always, we're going to go ahead and start with some injury news. So there was a holy shit stretch of quarterbacks getting banged up kind of in the middle of week 2 yesterday. Or
yeah, that
week
was
2.
like it was like 30 minutes of hell between Ty God, Andy Dalton, and Baker. We got this
Tua too.
And Tua, that's right. Tua, I think, there's a lot.
Yeah,
my God, there was a lot. God.
It was Tyrod, Andy Dalton, Baker Mayfield, and Tua that all went down in that frame. And Wentz also was banged up in that time frame as well. So, lot to get to. So let's dissect that first, because we know quarterback situation can have a huge impact on what goes on around them. So we're going to start in Houston, which seems to be probably the most significant of them as far as longevity goes. Tyrod Taylor's on IR, the hamstring issue. Now, we joked about this going into the season, that it was good news for Davis Mills that Tyrod Taylor was starting. But, man, you kind of hate to see it. It's the third season in a row where Taylor's started, and within the first 2 games ended up injured, bench, rookies coming in. Now, Davis Mills, not the pedigree of a Baker Mayfield or a Justin Herbert, though.
No, I mean, it's... And what sucks even more is that he was playing...
Very well,
in the best that he's played in 3 years. I mean, with Baker, it was always a matter of time. With LA, they got off to that slow start, and then obviously the puncture lug happened. But, I mean, he basically went out and won them week 1. I mean, it wasn't just him. The defense played well. The offensive playmakers were
running game
great with them.
Running game did well.
Yeah, and he was single-handedly keeping them, and at times ahead of the Browns.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we don't know what we're going to get from Davis Mills. I'm not very high on him coming out of college, so it's not that I really give a it's going to hurt, obviously, everyone around them. At least is my initial thought. especially the drop off from of production of what you'll see, what you saw from losing Tyrod to now Davis is at least for 3 weeks. Now that he's on IR, we'll see how long he's on there for.
Yeah, we're going to have to see because, I mean, one, there's a couple things this could mean. This could be good news for, like a David Johnson who's been used as a receiving back in the check down game. They're going to find ways to get Davis Mills high percentage throws. It's going to hurt some of the depth of target you were seeing out of Brandin Cooks. We know Brandin Cooks is more than a one-dimensional receiver. He's proved that to us time and time again. We'll get to him a little bit more later because he's started out on a tear. There's really nobody else there you're interested in, so this isn't a humongous fantasy impact. It's more so some of these prospective players where, you could look and say that, week 1, Mark Ingram had a good week. David Johnson had a good week. Week 2 kind of fell off a little bit. Maybe some matchup-dependent guys in there. Brandin Cooks, I think the volume's still going to be there. It does cap his ceiling a little bit, though.
You got to hope so. I mean, he had
14 targets. Or no,
14
sorry.
targets.
Yeah, 14 targets.
Week 2.
Yeah, in week
and he's been productive for both weeks. I don't just seeing this, like, moving away. It wasn't like he got 14 targets and somebody else got 10. The highest targeted guy after him had two. Had 2. 14. He had 12 more targets than any other playmaker on that offense.
Beerfield, math show.
Yeah, math show. He is highly keep being involved and should be started with. I mean, yeah, you can lower the expectations on his ceiling, but the floor should be there. Hopefully his ADOT doesn't go lower than what we saw on Sunday, 9 for 78, or a 14 targets, 78 yards. Not great ADOT, but hopefully, or not ADOT, yards per reception. Hopefully it doesn't continue to be that low, but we'll have to see. It's in PPR leagues, you should be just fine. In standard leagues, we'll just stop playing standard leagues.
Right. Stop playing in standard leagues. Exactly.
Stop playing standard leagues.
So that's easily the longest reaching one. Moving forward, you've got, I'll keep it with quarterbacks and we'll hit some of the others. So Andy Dalton, knee injury, they thought could have been ACL for a little bit. Pulled up on a non-contact earlier in the game. Came back for a little bit, I believe.
Yeah.
Went down again. Justin Fields came in, looked rather pedestrian in that effort. We'll get to that in a minute because I want to talk about really all of the rookie quarterbacks. But, Andy Dalton going down, I mean, I think you got to think that that's going to be the opposite to where with Fields it's going to open up that offense a little bit, allow them to do a little bit more, get a little bit more involved in the running game. You just didn't see it this past week when
yeah,
I mean, like
you may not even see it this week. You're going to see obviously a lot more RPOs. You're going to see, we got to see the high athleticism of Justin Fields in this game, and you got to see some of the poor decision making and some of the
and there were a couple drop passes, and he did look like he had, first regular season NFL game. He came in and looked jittery. He did.
Yeah, he did.
He looked jittery, so he's got to get that calmed down just a bit. Tua bruised ribs. They were absolutely lifeless without him.
I mean, they were almost lifeless with him. Tua's not off to a good start. I mean, week 1, they take him out for a series, and they bring in Jacoby Brissett. I don't think something's right with Tua. Obviously, this injury definitely doesn't help. Bruised ribs are not comfortable. But I'm wondering if there's something more mental to it too, where it's he hasn't looked like the quarterback that we watched on film.
He started to show a little bit more of that, I thought, and then he went down with the rib injury again. So I don't know if he's playing skittish or what, but I don't know. I need to put a closer eye on the Dolphins than what I have. It's kind of the one drawback from watching Red Zone is you don't really get to see the rhythm of a game.
You don't see you don't see generally the every play, like the every plays.
I've watched every team, every game alternating, but the games that I've sat down and watched at length, the Bears and the Rams and the Packers and the Lions, I feel like I have a much better understanding of where those two teams are than.
Well, even then, I mean, it's. I'll always comb through. I know that box score scouting, it's not. It doesn't tell the whole side of the story, and there's enough highlights. There's enough people on Twitter that's going to give you the play-by-play for literally every game. I feel like, God, when Red Zone went down, dude, Twitter lost its fucking mind.
Yeah, it's like you could watch Siciliano, but nobody wants to do that.
Oh my God, it was like it was like at a collective time we all got our favorite toy taken away from us.
It was bad.
Oh my! It's like when we dropped the ice cream cone onto the floor after getting it, and it happened like right as the game started. Like, we had what?
It was the first red alert. We were in the first quarter, halfway through.
Yeah, it was it was fucking mayhem on these Twitter streets.
Carson Wentz, double ankle sprains.
That's just
so not just one,
painful.
Two. He got two ankle sprains.
Well, he hurt both ankles, Cotton.
More than one ankle, max of two.
More than one, max of two of his ankles were hurt. What do they get next week? It's not it's another tough opponent, I believe.
I think it is.
Tight. I want to say tight at Tennessee.
Yeah. Eason came in at the end there just long enough to throw a pick. We'll have to see what this looks like. If it does, I would expect Wentz to not be nearly as mobile and them to try to keep him in the pocket a little bit, which is not...
A lot more checkdowns.
Which is not where he excels. Michael Pittman Jr., by the way, huge game.
Huge game. Big game for him.
With Wentz. So just... We'll keep an eye on that one, too.
We'll have you updates by Sunday. Our finest team listeners will probably know, because all of the social medias and all the televisions will be talking about if Wentz isn't going to play Sunday. But that's going to obviously change the way that this game should play out. And
yeah, it absolutely will. Now the good news is that Tennessee's dog shit. They've given up. I think that I saw earlier today they have given up 4 wide receiver ones through the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's big.
Which I don't know if you are good at averages, but again, we're a mass show, so
that's 2 wide receivers a game.
2 per week. That is 2 wide receivers per week that they've given that
Wait,
up
who did
to.
they? Has it been? I mean, who did they play? They played Seattle week 1.
They played
they played Seattle last week. And they played the Colts week 1.
No,
who did they play? No, that was Seattle. Who the fuck? Oh, Cardinals.
Yeah, it was the Cardinals.
That's right. Kurt and Hopkins week 1, and then Julio. Was it Brown? No, it was Cup. It'd be Cup and no.
It was Seattle. It was Lockett and because they've given it up.
Oh, Swaim. It was Jeff. It was Jeff Swaim
and Jeff Swaim, Freddie Swaim.
Geoff, some Swaim went off for I think 100 and a touchdown too.
Freddie Swaim had 95 and a touchdown.
Yeah, so
they kept Metcalf in check. So it's really second, third.
He's been
corners.
kind of the guy. He's been the guy that's been kept in check for the first 2 games. Lockett's been the one fucking murdering people.
Right. So anyway, I'll digress. It's good news, bad news. It's plus matchup because I don't believe that the Titans' run defense has been good either. Let me double check that as well.
They've been.
Let's just let this skip over this later in the show.
Yeah, We'll go over it later.
12 for 31 and 2 to Carson. That's not bad. They gave up.
Well, when teams are blowing, when you're
56 total yards. Well, and it was a 30-33 game too. That's the other thing there, right? So
they're also Seattle was up by I think 14 through a lot of that too. It's. I think teams have figured out the best way to attack Tennessee, and that's
through the air.
You don't have to run the football; you just keep throwing it. They've also played the Cardinals and the Seahawks, so this may change.
Seahawks usually have a good running game, though. The Cardinals actually did well. They put up over 100 total yards on the ground.
They destroyed Tennessee. That was a massacre.
So, look, it's a situation where Tennessee's defense is not good. Could be great for Jonathan Taylor Naeem Hines. If
Especially,
Easton's gotta go.
we should be excited to see the checkdowns. That 17 targets or 15, I believe, between the two of them in week one. Could be more of the same. If Wentz is immobile enough, if he plays, it's going to be hampered by both ankles, by not one, but a max of 2 ankles.
I'd
you could
expect
see a
them
lot
to
more
try to-
checkdowns.
Yeah, I'd expect this to be a situation where if I'm making predictions, it's a situation where I think he probably plays, but I think that it's going to be a lot of get the ball out quick, check it down, try to keep him from having to be mobile as much as you can.
Yeah,
and
it's going to
protect
be.
him.
Yeah, but it's going to keep things short. Maybe they'll try some deep shots, but
Yeah.
it could be a good running game. Good
Well,
run.
the good news
matchup
is
there.
Tennessee doesn't have a great pass rush either. So, not Packers bad, but was that it? No, I didn't ever see what Baker's injury was.
He hurt his shoulder.
I never saw specifics.
I just know that fuck Anthony Schwartz for giving up on that route. That was I watched that. So that was being played on Red Zone when that happened. When Baker,
Yeah,
who played an incredible game. I mean, he
played a really good game.
Yeah, 2 incompletions. I think one was a drop, and the other one was the give up route, or either a drop or a throw it, and then the INT was a give up on the route.
Right
play.
from Schwartz.
Schwartz just completely no. He had none of it.
All right, look at some of the other injuries to keep an eye on. Deontay Johnson, who is the Steelers' leading target getter, knee injury. He's looking good, not great, according to Tomlin. So he'll probably play.
So is that offense, and by good, not great, it's looking abysmal, not horrible.
Roethlisberger called out Mr. Canada, the OC.
Okay, yeah, and not the noodle arm and the fucking horrible decision making that I've seen.
He
from
called
Ben
them out for
Last
play
against-
calling, keeping players on the bench that should be out there, and not implementing enough no huddle, which is where Roethlisberger succeeds.
Well, we'll see.
If you're not
I think
playing to your quarterback's strength and using your best players in the way they should be used, I guess, but hasn't gone well.
Yeah, and sure.
Although you have a 39-year-old QB coming on that hasn't looked the same since he hurt his elbow. So
I guess you get the Bengals at home. We'll see.
We'll see. I mean,
We'll see.
yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Sure.
Other guys to keep an eye on: Jarvis Landry's on IR. Odell Beckham should be back this week. They did not sign a wide receiver from their practice squad, which tells me Odell is probably on his way back.
Yeah.
They opted to move a defensive end up instead. Anthony Schwartz, Donovan Peoples-Jones, we'll keep an eye on them to see if either of them see increased target volume from this.
They get Chicago at home on Sunday.
Wide receivers not heavily targeted. Beckham will likely draw Jalen Johnson in that situation. Johnson, very, very good. PFF's highest rated corner so far this season through 2 weeks. So
there you go.
Bears
Baker
defense completely came to life. So, look, the problem is that they're going to try to run it and should be able to. So, I mean, I don't know. Bears had a good game against Mixon, so we'll see. But we'll preview that game here in a little bit. Just something to keep an eye on. You're looking, if you're trying to pick somebody up, it's going to be either Schwartz or Peoples-Jones. Schwartz kind of saw the early target share over Peoples-Jones.
Depends if he's still in that doghouse. I don't know
Could
if
be
he
in
played much after that.
Yeah, it could be in the doghouse, and there wasn't a lot of targets going to the wide receivers anyway because they didn't have to.
And I don't think any of them has been playing very well. And Baker's not the player to just force targets to his receivers when you have 2-3 comparable tight ends.
Right. If it was one tight end, you'd have somebody relevant there, but you really don't. So,
if you had one tight end, you'd have Darren Waller and T.J. Hawkinson.
right.
But they don't. So
Or
here we are.
Travis Kelce. But you don't.
They don't. So, yeah.
The 49ers are doing their best to give the Ravens backfield a run for their money. And by that, I mean an injuries. JaMychal Hasty is already ruled out this week after a high ankle sprain. Elijah Mitchell, who came into last week as a starter, day-to-day with a shoulder issue. He did return. I think he returned because he had to, though, because I don't know that they had another back healthy another back active, and Trey Sermon's in concussion protocol. So
Trenton Cannon. They
signed Cannon.
Picked him up. They signed Trenton Cannon. Jeff Wilson's still on IR for one more week.
Yeah, Jeff Wilson's still on IR. Mostert done for the season. Look, Jeff Wilson might be a preemptive waiver pickup right now.
He needs to be. You need to get up on that. You even need to look at Trenton Cannon. Running backs in this offense have been successful, and you just need to pick up one of them.
And Jeff
you don't
Wilson
necessarily need to play it. You just need to have them rostered.
And Jeff Wilson has been a very usable back when his number has been called. Because, again, Jeff Wilson is the reason we say that anybody can be successful in this offense.
All Jeff Wilson does is run for 2+ touchdowns. Like, as soon as he's active, he's the goal line back. He's getting all the carries. And then all of a sudden, he's going for 115 and 2.
I mean, yeah, you look at
Successful.
12 for 15 and... Oh, hold on. Yeah. Those are first downs. Why are first downs there instead of touchdowns?
I don't know.
Oh, because I'm looking at advanced numbers. Why are...
Jesus Christ.
What the shit? What are we doing here?
What are you trying to look up?
I'm looking at his game logs, but it's only showing me advanced numbers. So I don't know why it's doing that. It's showing me like broken tackles and everything for him. It's not showing me touchdowns. I have attempts, yards, and first downs. Oh my god.
I'm looking right at him.
I went to advanced. I clicked the wrong thing.
Jesus.
You a dick. All right, let's try that again. 12 for 15 and 1. 17 for 112 and 3.
That was a fun game.
12 for 40 and 0. 11 for 31 and 1. 16 for 60 and 1. 20 for 76 and 1. I mean, these are flex RB2 type numbers when he gets double-digit carries. So, we'll see how it shakes out. But, Jeff Wilson does have a history of being successful. If he's only got one more week on IR, which would be this week, and could come back, he's a preemptive waiver pickup. Nobody's going to be thinking about Jeff Wilson until after Jeff Wilson does something. So if you want to get ahead of the competition, jump out there and grab Jeff Wilson off of.
Just throw him on your IR. If you got an IR
spot, pick him up, throw him in IR until he's
throw
ready.
him on the IR spot. Yep, exactly.
I'm probably going to do that.
Yep.
Because I haven't done waiver claims yet for this week either.
I have not either. Once we're done with the show, that'll be.
It's exactly what I'm doing when we're done with the show. I may sit here and do them with you after the show.
We probably will.
We probably will. We don't want to make you guys listen to us banter back and forth about waivers, but we usually talk for 20 to 30 minutes after we're done. So
that's right. Sometimes
we do things like argue about Zeke and then say, damn, that would have been really good if we had been recording that instead of just arguing with each other. We're going to argue about Zeke. We're going to argue.
We'll talk about Zeke here in a little bit. So
We are. And boy, is that one going to get fun. All right. Josh Jacobs, he's already considered, quote, very questionable for this week. We didn't really see a lot out of either Raiders back.
Pittsburgh's tough.
Pittsburgh is tough.
I mean, Peyton Barber should not be an NFL back anymore. Drake, who's Oakland? I should probably not Oakland, LA.
I got it.
Raiders,
13 to 30.
Dolphins.
Yeah, better.
Dolphins this week. Yeah, little better of a matchup.
Revenge game
For Kenyon Drake. Derek Carr's been a beast though, and
Derek Carr's been really good.
Running back. He's
you know who else
leading the league in passing yards.
You know who else has been really good? Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold has been far better than expected.
Sam Darnold has been really good. Derek Carr has been really good. If you're looking to rotate quarterbacks, probably not in Superflex, but these are two guys that went very late in Superflex leagues, and Carr's come out on fire. He's on one, and we've seen him do this throughout his career. Sam Darnold, though, for the first time really in forever, showing some life.
It's like if you have the best set of playmakers, all these incredible options at your disposal, and a competent head coach, they can even make Sam Darnold look like a weekly flex stream.
And he does.
a weekly stream, and he's played great.
He's playing all right.
That's why I wrote the name down. He's been playing. I got to give you. I'm not ready to give you and Brad all the props yet, but something to do the watch while Thor there is how good the Panthers defense has been playing. And
he's got Sam Darnold. Sorry, it's not Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, that's Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold. That's amazing.
No, he's got Houston this week.
Oh, yeah.
That's a streamable matchup if I've ever seen one.
Yeah. Jimmy Navarro. Welcome back, Jimmy.
Welcome back, Jimmy.
It's been a little bit, bud. He asked us, should I sell high on Terry McLaurin, or do you guys see this continuing all year?
Oh, it's going to continue.
There's no need to sell high on McLaurin unless you're getting a God's offer in return. Even in redraft, you definitely don't move him in Dynasty. He's QB proof. He did it with Fitz. He's done it with Heineke, and he'll continue to do it.
Yeah, he's put up the number he's put up, never having consistent play at quarterback. You forgot about Haskins, too.
Well, I was just saying for this year. But
yes.
Yeah, Haskins, Kyle Allen. I think he had Case Keenum.
Case Keenum for a bit. He had Alex Smith for a bit.
Yeah. McLaurin is fine.
Yeah, he's quarterback proof. And there, it's all he's done is put up the type of numbers that he's putting up. You do not need to sell high on Scary Terry. You ride that.
Yeah, ride it out to the sunset. I think I'm going to look at his numbers right quick. It's been pretty. 18 targets. He's got 15 of 18. He's at 85.
Yeah.
83.3 catch rate. That's incredible.
Well, it's been mid-60s each of the last couple seasons, which is still really good. So
yeah. I mean, he's playing that slot flanker, or at least he's playing flanker X. He's going to get all the intermediate.
Yards per reception are a little bit down for his career, so you expect that to regress a little bit positively, a little bit more towards the mean.
It might even stay the same, and that's probably where you're going to see the increase in catch percentage, and you're going to see the increase in targets and receptions.
Yeah,
he's playing that role. He is the safety piece for Heineke, and then once Fitz comes back, and if he does come back and take over, he'll probably play more of that vertical role, or they'll kind of expand out that offense a bit more.
Speaking of safety pieces, you know who I'm really glad I picked up, as long as we're talking about the football team?
Let's talk about. Is it Adam Humphries or is it Logan Thomas?
It's freaking J.D. McKissick.
J.D. McKissick. He fooled everybody, man. We were all fooled. Antonio Gibson, dominant week one. I would say dominant, but it looked great week one in terms of what his role will be. And then it's J.D. McKissick, not Antonio Gibson. Well, A, getting the goal line touchdown, and B, getting the 2-minute.
J.D. McKissick quietly had a James White season last year. He had 110 targets.
Yeah, no, he did.
And 80 receptions. Like, this is Nyheim Hines, James White, what he's coming back to. Like, if you're in a PPR league, J.D. McKissick is very rosterable back. He had 22 points on my bench this week.
Well, let's also not forget he had one target week one. So we've got to see the volatile. And you saw this from Hines last year.
And there's going to be
every
a lot
now and then
this.
You'll see it from James White. These guys they're great for PPR, but they're frustrating because trying to predict when they're going to go off.
Oh, guys, we say it every year. You don't know anything until week 4. Yeah. Because that's when you can kind of consistently see what's matchup dependent versus what wasn't, what a team's going to be, strengths, weaknesses, players, what's the throwaway game, what's the outlier. You've got 2 weeks right now. I didn't have time to prep it. Yeah. I wanted to do a buy and sell on performances because there's so much up and down through the first 2 weeks, right? I mean, you had a bunch of blow-up performances this week, but,
weird week 2. Week 2 was drunk. I'll just say that.
Here's one for you. Last week, everybody's ready to anoint Deandre Swift the Dynasty RB1. This week is all right. About average. Not great.
He made up like half of his fantasy production on that final drive.
Right.
Final couple drives.
So, just, we'll get more into what we know about this year, week 3, week 4, as we start to see some consistency. There's some things we'll deduce as we get into these game previews, though, too.
Hey, I'm still happy with Swift, by the way, too, though.
I am, too. No,
Yeah.
I definitely am. How did we get here? We're talking Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake. All right. And then we got asked
We got a question.
Yeah.
I
was just trying to figure out how we went from Josh Jacobs all the way over to J.D. McKissick.
Booze.
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 This is good booze, by the way. All right.
It is.
Rondale Moore. 48 total snaps. Big stat lines. Catch rate's 84%, 16.5 yards per reception. Huge start. Outsnapped by A.J. Green by nearly 60. Much, much better stat line, though. 13, or he's got one more target. I think that's how you have these orders.
Yeah, I mean, these are no. So Rondo Moore is completely outproducing.
Outproducing A.J. Green by a lot.
Less than half the snaps of what Green's playing. It's a travesty that the Cardinals are wasting away one of their best talents on the not playing enough for an over-the-hill A.J. Green who provides them absolutely fucking nothing. It's like the same thing that they're doing with James Conner and Chase Edmonds. Every time I look up and see James Conner run the football, it gives me anxiety. It's that bad.
Are there slot percentages for week 2 yet?
I don't think a player profiler has put up their stuff. Generally, it's Wednesdays, so we'll get it when we're on our normal schedule.
So what I'm curious to see, and you may know already because you watch this more than I do, is he competing with A.J. Green or is it Christian Kirk? What are your slot percentages on those two? Are they primarily both running out of the slot and A.J. Green's just taking up that other outside receiver spot?
That's
because they
pretty
have
much what
two guys.
That's pretty much what we're seeing is that it's Green is playing the other outside role, and you'll see Kurt and Moore be mixed around with that. Kurt, I think, is the primary slot guy, and it's kind of Moore kind of doing a little bit of everything when he's out there.
Right, and that's to me the part that's curious, right? Because you can screw around with A.J. Green, but if they aren't comfortable with Moore or Kirk on the outside, the problem you have there is that, you know, you've got a better version of what the Giants try to do with Sterling Shepard and Golden Tate, right? Your two best receivers are both slot guys. So Moore is athletic enough to play outside, but he's so undersized to do it that, you know.
I don't think it should even matter between those two because, I mean, so Rondo Moore played 74% of his snaps in week 1 were in the slot.
What about Kirk?
Kurt's probably going to be, I would assume it would be lower, but I don't know by how much. I'll pull his numbers up. But, I mean, for what Rondo Moore gives you for how much they want to get him involved when he's out there, it shouldn't necessarily matter how much they're being lined up. They'll move him around the formation. Maybe just find ways to have them both playing the inside off the O-line. Kurt played 76.5% of his snaps,
and that's the problem. And that's kind of what I thought the problem was going to be. Right, is that they're keeping A.J. Green outside and they're creating all sorts of matchup problems. And that's why why Moore and Kirk have been so effective. Is that I don't think anybody's going to argue that Rondale Moore and Christian Kirk are the second and third most talented receivers on this team, behind Hopkins.
I don't think anybody would either. Yeah.
The problem is that neither of them really profiles well as an outside guy, but I think if they continue to produce that way, they're going to have to try to find a way to make that work. You're either going to have to try to put the bigger of the two, Christian Kirk, at 5'10", on the outside and try to let him work kind of some intermediate routes is the second outside guy. I mean, we've seen T.Y. Hilton. Well, Hilton was primarily a slot guy, so never mind. But
I would just, I mean, it
and so is Crowder. That's the problem.
I mean, Kurt is the starting slot receiver. He played outside his first 3 years, or first 3 years, due to Larry Fitzgerald obviously being the primary slot option. But there should be no issue in moving these guys just around the formation and having them both play in and out. Hopkins will obviously have his flanker X. fucking Hopkins. It seems it's a waste. Like you're wasting a part of the field. You're wasting a part of the area. And Greed has been hyper inefficient with the production he's got. Maybe he starts to lose snaps. This is something that I want to keep track on. But Moore had his breakout game. So does Kurt this year.
I would think he will, right? But I think to do it, you're going to have to put Christian Kirk on the outside to run Rondale Moore out of the slot most of the time.
Or you just find ways to make them both. I mean, Moore's got the speed to work outside.
Well,
he's just undersized.
He's just undersized, yeah.
That's fine. I mean, like, he doesn't need to be a 6-foot guy. He like, they'll keep finding out ways to keep him productive.
Well, it's the difference between 6 foot and 5'7", right? And he's a unicorn. Moore is. You haven't really seen a 5'7". Well, how tall was Steve Smith? That's got to be your
5'9",
closest comparable, right? So he's 5'9". Kirk's 5'10". Crowder's 5'10". I mean, Kirk profiles kind of in the same ballpark as Steve Smith. He's played outside. I think that's your best move because Rondale Moore in the slot, and we've seen it the past couple weeks, matchup nightmare with his speed, his athleticism, and doesn't have to deal with bigger corners out there.
Yeah, I'm just not. I mean, like, for me, I'm not so much concerned about where they play, where they line up.
I know. Then you want them on the field.
You just want them on the field more.
Right. I'm just saying that I think that's the reason they haven't done it yet is that they're trying to keep Green and his size on the outside because you've got two guys that are both smaller receivers that on most teams would be prototypical slot guys and be matchup nightmares in the slot. So they're putting both guys they're on the field in the slot to give them the ability to succeed. The other thing that they could do without having a lot of success at tight end, if you trust one of your backs to block very, very well, you very much could go to run a lot of 4 wide receiver sets, and I'd be curious to see how often they do that, because if you go 4 wide, you can put them both in the slot.
Yeah. They led the league last year in 4 wide receiver sets.
Right, and
it wouldn't surprise me if that's the same by the end of this year.
It would not me either, and I think that that's the way that they succeed, right? But the problem is that to do that, you have to have either an offensive line that you really trust or a running back that you really trust to stand in there and block.
Yeah, I mean, I think the solution, like, you don't have to run 4. Like, I just don't want to see AJ. Like, I know your body and you're well respected because of what you did in Cincinnati, but you're done. The injuries caught up to you. It's time to just let this man be the veteran presence on the bench. Again, there's no need to take a guy off the line or have a running back in and block. Just take him off the field. Give him his, 35% snap share. And just let him. The
thing is, for the team,
put in your fucking playmakers and be productive.
You're putting your playmakers in a position to be playmakers, though, by running them putting them in their best opportunity to succeed.
I mean, these guys should be some of the best in the business into figuring out and deploying their talents.
Right, and they're deploying. That's why Kirk and Moore have both been so fucking effective the way that they're being deployed, right? I mean, look, you can not like the snap share. You can't argue with Moore's productivity the first 2 weeks, even if you don't like the snap share,
about it.
Because they're putting him in a position to succeed. And if he gets more, you're not going to necessarily keep up with that efficiency because you're going to have to put him in situations where he may potentially be less successful. So I don't think it's going to hurt him any. I don't think you're going to see a linear increase in his productivity because the snap share goes up.
Oh, no. I mean, that'd be insane.
What I'm saying is I don't know how much it helps him because he's been so hyper efficient. Because he's being deployed in situations to succeed right now. Either way.
He gets more snaps, he'll get more opportunity. I mean, from what we've seen, when he's on the field,
he gets opportunity.
He gets opportunity.
Right.
He gets on the field more. May not, translate 1-for-1 for opportunity, but
it won't, and I don't know how much it does. And that's not an indictment on Moore necessarily. That's more of of a roster structure thing, in my opinion. I completely get what you're saying. I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit here in saying that this is why they're doing this, and you're right. You should be the best as an NFL coach at putting your guys in a position to succeed, and clearly they're doing that well, right? If A.J. Green's just out there eating up space and Christian Kirk and Rondale Moore
they can be
feasting,
doing it. They could be doing it.
Are you sure?
They should be doing it better.
Are you sure?
I mean, I feel more confident that if you put your best playmakers out there and you trust in what we've seen in the limited production for both of these players, given their opportunity, then yes. Because why should it change if Green is not on the field? Green isn't productive out there. He's taken one part of the field away from what the offense can open up more to. I don't think taking him off and giving Moore and Kurt more of an inside-outside role where you can just keep intertwining them, maybe it makes him a little bit more, boom-busty, as when maybe Kurt's a better option out of the slot for 1 week. Maybe it's more, but it feels like why not see what happens? What are you going to lose there? I mean, the offense is hyper-productive, and you're giving your worst receiver the second most snaps.
Because if it ain't broke, don't fix it?
I mean, they should have lost against Minnesota, so I don't think it's completely not broken.
Well,
I think they got bailed out by a missed field goal.
Now,
but that might not be.
Hold on, that's not the
offense.
offense's problem.
Well, sure. But,
that has zero to do with the offense and everything to do with the fact. That was a 34-33 game. That has nothing to do with the offense and everything to do with the defense.
Well, I mean, that's,
If you score 34 points, you should fucking win.
True, you should. But still.
So, again, little devil's advocate there. I think the thing that we both agree on is there's no way you sit Rondale Moore right now.
Yeah, and there's no way that he should. Yeah, anyways. Fucking AJ Green. Jesus Christ.
Fantasy people get too antsy.
We want to be on it. I mean, we have 17 games, 18 weeks, 17 games to try to be as ahead of the curve as possible. That's why we're so fucking antsy. It's not like, baseball where there's 66 games played.
62.
162, excuse me. Or even the 82 that you get in hockey and basketball.
And basketball.
Yeah,
no,
17 games to try to get ahead.
It's not, but when your offense has put up points like Arizona.
The offense has been very productive.
Like Arizona
I think
has.
Could be more. I think there could be more.
I'm thinking that if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? You're 2-0. And you're scoring in bunches. Fix your defense. Which didn't look broke against Tennessee, but apparently Taylor Lewan was playing hurt, so.
No. It wasn't. It shouldn't. It doesn't all fall on him. That whole
line was bad for Tennessee.
The whole line was horrible, and they just keep getting worse because they lost. I think they lost another good piece to injury as well.
We already talked Sam Darnold, and I think we had agreed. Yes, you put him in the streamer category.
10% higher completion percentage over his career average, and then 2% lower on his interception rate. Yeah. He is finding himself into the hyper productive game manager role,
and that's exactly what I thought that he could be and would do in Carolina. And with he's using the weapons around him. They're using CMC. Robbie Anderson's a little down, but they're using DJ Moore. They're getting it done, and he's been good.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been a good start for these first 2 weeks. I hope it can hold up. So
yep,
you got to highlight and you got to give due when props are worth it. So
yep, and we'll keep an eye on it. Allen Robinson, slow start for him. 59 total yards on 15 targets over his first 2 games. How concerned are we with Allen Robinson, and does a potential switch to Justin Fields help him or hurt that target volume?
I mean, if we believe that Justin Fields is going to be more of the Konami code quarterback, it's going to hurt the overall target volume for the offense, right? When Hurts pulls down and runs off, Lamar Jackson pulls down and runs off, and they do that over 10 times a game, it takes away, it takes away targets from the overall offense, touches from the overall offense. What we hope, and if you like Justin Fields as a prospect, you should be excited because of how good of a quarterback he is. Yes, there's some concerns potentially through his processing speed. He played at one of the more difficult offensive schemes to learn as he runs an option RPO. Where him and the receiver has to be on the same page.
Yeah, that was my knock on him coming out was processing speed. So,
but Robinson should be your one read then. So processing speed should be if Robinson is open, the process ends there. And we know how well he can be with his first read. He did it with Ohio State. So I'm not concerned with Robinson. Now we'll have to see how Fields plays, and we'll see what the offense looks like with Fields. And like with all these rookie quarterbacks, we're gonna have to give them time and to see how the offense fluctuates throughout the year. We know rookie quarterbacks as a whole generally struggle, and the productions from their playmakers can be up and down. So you're still playing Robinson out there. He's on the field for almost every play, and he should be the primary read on most throws.
I agree. He should be, and they get Cleveland this week. So you saw Brandin Cooks with 14 targets and a modest day at 78 yards and a touchdown there. Kansas City, Tyreek Hill obviously had a monster game there. So wide receiver ones are able to get it done a little bit against Cleveland. So
a lot of it's going to be is how much does Nagy want to open up the offensive playbook to them, and then how much do they want to let him. Like, is he going to be like a Mac Jones where he's playing game manager, isn't throwing a shit ton, or they're going to throw him out to the wolves and what we've been seeing with Trevor Lawrence and what we saw from Jerbo last year?
I think they should do the Lawrence approach.
I completely agree.
But from what they did with Mitch, I don't think that they do. I think they're going to try to.
I think that's where
handle
the
it with kid gloves.
starts. So again, it's a. Did they learn with Mitch? We'll find out, right?
I mean, that was my argument with Mitch the whole time. Is that even when they were starting Trubisky last year, they were handling him with kid gloves, and then they'd get down, and then open up the playbook in the second half, and he looked better when they did it. But they never started the game from a place of, we're going to open up the playbook. So I think if they did, then they immediately opened the playbook with Fields. I agree with you. I think it's not good for the target volume. I think it is good for the efficiency for Allen Robinson. And the efficiency of what he's done with his targets has been very, very bad the first couple weeks. And I'm not sure how long you can continue to justify, this isn't a me hitting Allen Robinson thing, but if you get another week or two of this,
if you get one more week.
If you get one more week of this.
I won't even give him 2 weeks.
I'm not sure how you can justify it,
I mean, there's been far better replacement level wide receiver production than running back. It's a lot harder to bench a struggling Zeke than it is to bench a Robinson, where running backs, I think it feels like running back production feels very light. Outside of obviously the blow-up games from Henry and Jones is going to make it look a little bit better. It feels like overall running backs just scoring-wise feels lower than usual. I don't know if you feel that way, but...
No, I do, and that's always the way we've been trending, though, right? As you go into, guys that are getting...
fluctuates, too, yeah.
You go from guys that are getting 25, 30 carries a game even 4 years ago when we broke into this thing to guys that are getting, 15 to 20. Because most teams are rolling two backs, and you got them involved in the receiving game. You're passing 30 to 35, 40 times a game. Like 30 times a game right now is low.
Yeah,
so
big analytics for all that too. That's the implementation of analytics into your play calling, and we've been seeing it on like fourth down calls. You're starting to see it more with more pass happy offenses, even when you're winning. You're starting to see teams continue to throw. Well, and you're right. That's going to make it's a lot harder to find workhorse running backs and a lot easier to now start to find replacement level production from receivers.
Right. And even guys like, your second year, you got replacement level running backs right now that you're looking at for their target volume because of the passing game, not because of what they're doing on the ground. It's going to be all injury and target volume.
That way because it's pretty rough. So.
Right.
And I think that's a good transition into
Zeke and Pollard.
The Zeke and Pollard discussion where Pollard is he's clearly being outsnapped. And that may be in line with Michael Gallup getting hurt and Kellen Moore understands that you just have to play your best players, and you start to see, if you watch these games, Zeke and Pollard are on the field at the same time. Pollard is 8 yards per touch compared to Zeke's 4.4. I gave him the benefit of the doubt in week 1 against Tampa Bay, because Tampa Bay has the best run defense in football. Chargers have a good front seven. You got to see some production. Didn't get the touchdown. Pollard did. I don't know if this increases much for Pollard's snap share, and I don't know if Zeke's going to lose much more, because Zeke does more than just run the football. He's out there as a pass protector. This is an argument, right, between Moore and Green. You're starting to see the more productive, easily more productive backup over the starter.
65-35, I think, is what the snap share is what the
Zeke, I think, at 70. Zeke at 75.
That's what it was.
So Zeke and Pollard are both out on the field at the same time, a fair amount. And I think that
that
does
24% to 34%, right? So 65 and 35 was last week.
These are at 100% because they're on the field at the same time. So they're going to play. It's going to go over 100% because they're both playing on
That's
the
right.
same time.
75-35. So first off with that, we're not just throwing the Zeke performance against the Chargers out?
No.
Okay,
I
cool.
gave him the benefit of doubt because it was an extremely difficult matchup, and we talked about over there that if what we saw is the same in week 2, we can have a conversation. As you said to start the show, we don't really know what things look like until week 4, but we can kind of start seeing trends. And I know Zeke struggled last year, but I don't want to rehash that.
And Zeke had an okay day, right? I mean, he's still at 97 total yards, but he was not more productive than Tony Pollard.
No. And Pollard got the lawn run and the lawn touchdown.
And that's the trend that you're seeing. Like, if you started Zeke, you're not disappointed with 97 total yards and a touchdown.
You're disappointed that Pollard is the one that's breaking off the lawn play.
Pollard, and went 140 and a touchdown on fewer snaps. So, look, I do think that if Pollard continues to eat, this could go more 60-40. You could continue to see them use more of them at the same time. If they need Zeke to stay in and block and Pollard to go do what Pollard does, you're going to see more of that. And I think this is a situation where you have to consider Tony Pollard.
He's flex worthy. For as long as Michael Gallup is not playing, which I think is why you're seeing an increase in snap shares for Pollard.
Right.
Pollard is flex worthy. I mean, he's going to give you up and downs when you play this little snaps. Compared, like, he's not playing a lot. He's not playing even half the snaps, but he's so productive with what he has that it should translate to more.
16 touches, you love to see it. When he's on the field, he's involved. It's Rondale Moore.
Yeah, he is. Pollard and Moore are one in the same given, within their given position.
When they're on the field, they're involved and efficient, even though they're not seeing a ton of the snap share.
And I think,
you're okay with that because of the end result.
Yeah, and why, even more so this year, we talked about some of the more high-profile backups. It's a 17-game season. I believe throughout the offseason, Dallas beat writers alluded to potentially seeing more Pollard early on as they want to kind of let Zeke be his most fresh,
Do you think that's why we're seeing
possible.
More two-back rotations?
Yes, I think that's why. You have one extra game. Only one team gets a bye week in the playoffs now. That one extra game, I think, adds a lot more, especially for running backs with the amount of poundings.
Because you want your elite guys you want a Zeke to be healthy at playoff time, because that's when you're going to lean on him heavy. It could be a lot like what we see with the way starting pitcher use has gone in the major leagues, right? Where you can serve throughout the season, and then you're going to lean on your guy. Or like an elite closer, then you're going to lean on your guy.
And they want to add an extra game even after this. They have a 19-game season.
Right.
With multiple bye weeks, which this is going to be a trend. We're already seeing
it's a big load management thing.
Yeah, load management and committee backfields more and more as we're starting to lean away from these one-back backfields. Unless you're Pittsburgh or Tennessee and you want to give all your touches and all your snaps to one player.
And we'll see if that backfires.
With like Dalvin Cook and Camara too. the same way guys can be productive on less snaps. Like that whole fallacy has been proven to be true, or that whole statement's been proven to
Cook,
be true.
Camara, even Kareem Hunt, right? Productive on less straps. Yeah, snaps. Latavius Murray a couple years back. Austin Eckler's done it. I mean, there's a long line of guys that do this, and they're perfectly viable. James White. And if you've been listening to the show for a bit, you've heard me say it. Dan, I know you've heard me say it a lot. I don't give a shit about snap count so much as I give a shit with what you do with that snap count. If you're on the field for, like, I like routes run, for example, for wide receivers. Isn't much. What's that? Or sorry, for tight ends, not wide receivers.
No, well, both. I mean,
and running backs too, right?
Yeah.
I like that a lot more than I like snap share, because that's giving you more of a story about how they're being used while they're on the field. Targets is something I like, because it's more of a story about how they're being used when they're on the field. Snap share only tells you part of the story. It tells you the guy is on the field. If I get a guy that's on the field 75% of the time, but in touches, he's coming close to the guy that's on the field 35% of the time, I don't give a shit about the snap share.
Looking at you, AJ Green and Rondell Moore.
Right.
I know.
Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard. I don't care about the snap share, because you're getting the same, your number called the same amount of times. And if you're being hyper efficient with that, I like you just as much as if not more than I like the guy that is maybe getting way more snap share than you, but only seeing the same number of touches. That means he's being asked to do different things.
Yeah. I like to keep looking at it because I think it's a good way to tell when a player. It's a good way to see
how the coaches are viewing a player.
Players, right?
Yeah,
it's good. It's a good way to see trends.
It's not
one that I harp on. I use it more early on season because I want to know what teams how are teams deploying their players, and then when they're out there, what is their role? It was why I was concerned for Kittle this year. And why I love TJ Hawkinson. Lions improve their offensive line tenfold. Hawkinson gets to run more routes. He's been kept in the block more. You saw it. I mean, he had a 59% route participation last year. I mean, he saw a lot of snaps, but he was also blocking a lot more because their old line was so struggling. Detroit improves that. Hawk gets to run more routes. Kittle is one of the best overall, if not, he is the best overall tight end in football. It's one of the best blocking tight ends, if not the best blocking tight end. When San Francisco is struggling on offensive line, or if there's injuries, they have productive playmakers that can take over for Kittle. That's why Kittle it's hard to put him in that first tier with the Kelsey and Waller and now potentially Hawk, because he doesn't get the routes, he doesn't get the targets. He's a little bit more volatile from a week to week because he's not the primary option in most games.
Sure.
Tangents.
Josh Allen's off to a slow start. 65 point completion percentage is down almost 10%. Yards per attempt is down.
So he's at a 56% completion percentage, down from a 65.2 from last year. He's at a 5.5 yards per attempt, which is down 3 points from his yards per attempt last year at 8.5. His touchdown rate has tanked from 6.5 to 3.6. He's a QB 19 on the season, and he's averaging 17.3 points per game compared to the mid-20s he faced last year. Look, I'm not panicking on Josh Allen. This is simply pointing out that he is not only has he regressed back to what his career averages look like. Touchdown rate not as much, but
at least for the first two games. And I will say this about the first two games, right? You've got a tale of two different things. You've got one that was a defensive struggle against a rough defense in the Steelers, where we said, yeah, he may start out slow. And then you had a game against Miami where they won 35-0, and the lead was never in jeopardy, and you don't have to lean on him.
It speaks to the Buffalo's defense. It's healthy and it's very good, and the team doesn't need to lean on Josh Allen anymore. He plays in a division where you have three offenses that are average at best, below average, to go alongside Buffalo. It's 6 games he's going to play this year that they may not need him to produce. He doesn't need to score them 30 points a game anymore, because the defense should be able to hold their team to under 20. I mean, Pittsburgh, put up their points, but they also got a defensive touchdown.
Yep. They do have the football team coming in next week that could look a lot more like the Pittsburgh game than anything. Then you get the Texans, which could very easily look like the Miami game if they don't get shit figured out with Davis Mills.
I'm excited for the Chiefs.
I'm excited for the Chiefs and the Titans headed into the bye week.
And the Bucs in Week 14. Because after the Chiefs and Titans is their bye week, then they have in Week 8, Dolphins, Jacksonville, the Jets, the Colts. Who knows what they're going to look like if Wentz is still banged up. The Saints. We've seen a tale of two teams there too, right?
Right.
Like,
so it's very much a matter of those are plus matchups, but the thing with the plus matchup is when you're as good as the Bills are, you may not need to use Josh Allen very much.
And that's he just got paid. Buffalo wants to protect their investments.
And remember,
he doesn't need to run as much, even though he's running on average just as much.
Yeah. Football, not stats, is what wins the game. So Washington, look, I'm not panicked on Josh Allen unless we get through weeks 5 and 6, and you don't see it. You know,
you're going to be lucky. You're going to be happy in weeks 5 and 6 when he's playing a team that has a great quarterback and an offense that can lead to shootouts.
And I think week 3 is going to be, like I said,
even
it could be closer to Pittsburgh, but it should stay close to where you get more of a week 1 performance.
Well, then you need him to be more efficient, and this is where, if you're going to panic, it's Allen seeing less passing attempts, but he's still hyper efficient. It's probably a back in QB1 because rushing production should be there. He's still averaging 7 attempts per game.
I mean, he threw 51 times against Pittsburgh, so that level of volume, especially if you get it against Washington, is good. He threw 51 and ran 9. You're okay with that? I'd expect Washington game script to go about the same. Yeah. It's really the game against Miami. They didn't need him. He only had to throw 33 times, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Okay, 179 yards. Got it.
I think we're back to a 2019 style. He didn't like. Well, we're going to see a mixture of probably both of last year in 2019.
But the other thing is the running game. They came to life this week.
I mean, when you're up, 14-0 in the first quarter,
right?
If your choice is to continue to run the football, it fucking better. And it was 14-0 for like what felt like a quarter and a half.
Right.
Like that was that same score. So Buffalo, so even their offense started to stall even after that. So I mean, maybe it's them being overprotective of Allen. They just gave him a metric shit ton of money. Maybe that's what we're seeing. It's a little overprotectiveness of your now 6-year investment, or now 9-year investment? Because
you also had a defensive struggle in a rough matchup and a game that they blew him out in. So, let's see a game like Washington where, he may be running for his life a little bit more, right? Let's see the Chiefs and Titans games and see where we end up.
Yeah. We talked about Mr. Cooks.
We did talk about Cooks. Rookie quarterbacks, real quick. Not a good week if you're a rookie quarterback, by the way. How concerned are we with some of these starts? And let's go ahead and I want to start off with... Who do I want to start off with, Dan? Let's start out with Trevor Lawrence against Denver. Denver's got a good defense. We knew this would be a litmus test for Lawrence. It did not go well. 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown, 14-33, 118 yards. Rookie in his second start. Are we concerned with Lawrence given how good Denver's defense is?
No, he's thrown the ball 84 times. I think he leads, or he's pretty close to leading the league in passes. What the concern is that the high passing volume stays up and he ends up like Joe Burrow. Obviously, rookie quarterback, a lot of throwing is great for fantasy. Decision making is all over the place. Urban Meyer, from what I keep hearing, has been just horrible with everything. Like,
that's what I've heard too.
It's been bad. We know how good Trevor Lawrence is. We know how prolific he can be. At least he's being productive for his receivers, and you're likely not playing Trevor Lawrence outside of maybe 2 QBs, because he was likely drafted in the 3rd to 5th round, and he's likely your QB 1 or 2, and depending on what your backup situation looks like, he's at best stream worthy. He's only ran the ball 3 times in 2 games, so you would hope that the rushing would be there, but he's against it in the pocket and throwing, so the rushing upside hasn't even been there. From what we've seen from struggling rookie QBs, they tend to take off more.
Right, especially if they're under pressure a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, he's under pressure, I want to say, a fair amount. I mean 18.2 is his pressure per dropback. I don't know what that is compared to the league average, but
it's pretty bad.
Doesn't feel, it doesn't feel great.
It's pretty bad. Zach Wilson put up 4 interceptions against New England. We talked about it last week. This is just what New England does to rookie quarterbacks. To me, you saw him struggle in his first NFL game and then kind of put it together. We'll see how he bounces back from this. He is far from it was bad. He's far from the first rookie quarterback to have a really bad game against the Patriots.
I mean, he's never played against a good defense until now. Like, I know his offensive playmakers were bad in college, but he also had one of the best offensive lines in all of college, and he just hasn't played against good defense. We're going to have to see, can Zach Wilson adjust?
Well, and it doesn't get easier because they're about to go up against Denver.
It's also a very tough division, too. It's also
a
very difficult division. We knew that, I knew that, and you knew that. Wilson is far from a complete project. He's got a lot of arm talent. He's got a lot of talent. But if between the years can't get it done, then we could see a Sam Darnold type of situation.
The other thing, too, is that you have to put him in a position to succeed, right? Which is what the Jets struggled to do with Darnold. And they've made steps on the line, and we commended their draft. But one thing they didn't do, and I forget who called this out, but they did not give him a veteran quarterback to lean on. They didn't put a veteran there to where you can, if he's having a bad game and not putting it together and you're getting blown out, pull him and put somebody else in. They didn't give him a veteran to help him work through some of the logistics of what it is that he's doing, how to prepare, how to get ready for a game, how to prep for defenses, spot your mistakes, make adjustments. They gave him Mike White. And Mike White...
He's in New York, too, which is...
Right.
Everything
you're in New York, so you're under pressure. But they did not give him a veteran, and I can't remember the last time that has happened where you haven't given somebody, a rookie quarterback, a long-time backup to...
I mean, Trevor Lawrence...
To help you. Lawrence...
to an extent, it was Minshew, but we've seen Minshew be productive, but he's only been in the league for 2 years.
Well,
so it's not like it. I mean, and we're seeing Lawrence also struggle, right? He's got 5 interceptions to start this year. He's got back-to-back multiple interception games. So we're starting to see his decision making also being tested. The same thing with Wilson. We've seen Lawrence be dominant against the best defenses in college. Wilson didn't get to face it, and when he did, he struggled. So it's all about, can Wilson make that adjustment?
And we'll see
and
if
hopefully the Jets can do that.
And we'll see if he comes out and has a better game against Denver. It'll be, like I said, he's getting run right back out there. And for Lawrence, I mean, at least you gave him C.J. Beathard, right? Which,
okay, yeah.
I mean, say what you will, but C.J. Beathard's been a backup in the league for 4 or 5 years behind.
That's fair.
He was behind Garoppolo. He was, I forget who he was behind before Jimmy G, but.
C.J. Beathard.
He's had a chance, and Kyle Lalletta's their practice squad guy, which, say you will, he got to learn from Eli Manning. So, it's Beathard at least has started games, been in the NFL, been around for 4 or 5 years. Mike White is a journeyman who was in Dallas. I mean, he was
behind. You don't besmirch the name of Mike White.
I like Mike White, but
I know, and you're right. I think everything hitting Wilson in a way, from the immense pressure playing with the Jets, and being the number 2 overall pick and the pressure that comes from that.
Sure.
and you're you are the new face of this complete rebuild. What the Jets just did.
Right.
Not like
so you gotta.
Yeah.
We'll see how he adjusts against Denver, but
Yeah,
it was just a point I wanted to bring up because I thought it was interesting to think about. Where Burrow had Dalton. No, he didn't.
No, he didn't. Burrow had nobody. Burrow had. God, who was the backup?
It was.
Burrow also struggled.
Burrow had
Burrow
Driscoll,
is going the way of Trevor Lawrence, where
yeah.
Lawrence is kind of mirroring Burrow's rookie season in terms of passing volume.
Allen had Matt Barkley, longtime backup, when he came into the league. Lamar Jackson had Robert Griffin, who'd been around for forever and was the same style of quarterback.
Joe Flacco his first year too. So
Flacco
probably helped a bit too.
Flacco, Baker had Taylor.
Ty God.
Yeah, he had Ty God around for him. Looking at it.
So you're saying that Zach Wilson could be Josh Rosen? Because Rosen also didn't have anybody. I think it was just him.
I think it was just him. Yes, and yes
Wilson's
and no.
Rosen
had more film holes that I saw than what.
I know. It's more of being facetious, but
got it.
No.
Yeah,
we know that Zach Wilson's a far superior prospect than Josh Rosen.
We do.
We do. All right.
So anyway, basically not worried. We'll analyze Zach Wilson a bit after the Denver game and see how that goes. See if he can adjust to playing back-to-back tough defenses. And then he gets a real bounce back against Tennessee.
Back to back. It's not like the Panthers defense is playing bad. I mean, they've improved greatly.
Is it back-to-back? I thought I just clicked through this and it wasn't back-to-back.
Well, yeah, get the Panthers week 1.
Right.
Patriots week 2, and then you'll get Denver.
I was talking about in the future. He's got Denver,
okay.
Then he gets Tennessee. So, and then he gets Atlanta. So we'll see how that goes. Is it going to be purely matchup?
There's some quote-to-quote get-right games coming up.
Yeah, there's a couple get-right games after Denver, but we want to see him improve against Denver.
Yes.
Carolina, he did all right. He started out slow, and then he did adjust and came back okay. So, and again, excuse me, first NFL game. Okay. A lot of talk about Edwards-Helaire.
It's been so. I saw this because you also, I think, talked about it too. Helaire has been dealing with grade 2 high ankle sprain?
It's a high ankle sprain, yeah. And that makes sense to a slow start.
It does because it's been rough.
Mm-hmm.
27 total carries for under 100 yards, just 3 targets, no touchdowns. He's clearly the number one guy playing on 65+% of the snaps through the first 2 weeks. Chiefs have ran a total of 110 plays, and and CH has done absolutely nothing with it. Mahomes has thrown the ball 67 times to just by having 3 targets. So obviously not the fast start we wanted to see. The hope is that the high ankle sprain, he's trying to play through it, which is bothering him. But how much can it really be bothering him when he's playing nearly 70% of the snaps every game? Generally, when it's bothering you, you would think those snaps would start decreasing, but I'm not a doctor. What the fuck do I know? Dr. Jesse Morris.
Yeah, somebody go find his tweet under Adam Schefter's shit.
Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, all of them.
Everyone.
All of them guys.
Anyway, nervous, yes. But surprised, no. And it's not because we didn't like Clyde. It's because even last year, when people were blowing smoke up his ass because he landed on the Chiefs, I thought that he
was handpicked by Mahomes.
I thought there was too much being. I thought there was too much being put on the fact that the Chiefs drafted him because of how good they were as an offense, given the way that they use their running backs, right? So I can't say I'm surprised by 27 total carries and, target percentage not being there. But here's the other thing, right? The Chiefs, we've said for years, have been a 2-trick pony in their receiving game.
Kareem Hunt was hyper productive in this same offense with the same 2 players.
He was, and I'm not saying that, but Kareem Hunt was also hyper productive with Alex Smith.
I mean, sure, but again, he was still productive. It's more of Clyde was probably overhyped. He was overhyped as a prospect, and
He was overhyped as a prospect.
he got even hyped even more because he landed in Kansas City,
He did.
and people started to create narratives based around what the past running back production has been with Andy Reid.
They did.
You're right. We were excited because Kareem Hunt was productive, and Clyde was viewed as a superior prospect. Damien Williams was productive, and Clyde was still viewed as a similar or a far superior
You've gone from
prospect.
Andy Reid's Andy Reid. He's calling plays, so that's not
Yes.
really a big change there. But what I will say is this: Andy Reid's a smart guy. I'd imagine you game plan a little differently when you have a Patrick Mahomes than you do when you're playing Alex Smith.
I hope so. Yeah.
Just a tad. But yeah, I'm nervous, but part of that I'm not nervous because I'm not surprised, and part of my reason I stayed away from Edwards-Helaire mostly is because he was being drafted so far ahead of David Montgomery, Deandre Swift, Miles.
It was so
Sanders.
nice when he was a fourth round pick.
He was being
so
put in that
nice.
second round, and he really should have been back more so in that tier with those guys.
Yeah, he should have been a third and fourth round. He should have been a late third, early fourth.
Right.
That's
So
where
I get why you're disappointed with the performance, but part of that's your own damn fault for valuing him the way that you did, because he's been chronically overvalued.
I mean, it went from a massive value to a big or a massive overvalue to a steep change, and he became an undervalued player when he was going in the fourth. I mean, the snaps are great. You want to see that. You want to see him on the field, but you obviously want to see that translate to production. And this team has clearly moved on to we're not going to get the running backs involved. We're just going to stick with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and then we'll give the scraps to them, to Demarcus Robinson and to Mecole Hardman.
Yeah. All right, and then Woods versus Cooper Kupp. Look, Kupp is a clear winner here, and there was always this concern coming in about who
They were even throughout the entire offseason process.
and they should have been. And the toss-up here was who's Stafford going to prefer? How's it going to work? You're implementing a different offense. Probably going to be a little bit different of a look, and Kupp has been otherworldly.
Yeah.
I think Woods does regress to the mean a little bit and settle in as a wide receiver too. I think that the Rams offense is 100% good enough for that to need to happen. But
It's been just them two. Like, they are the main.
yeah, Cooper
main
Kupp has
target
been
getters.
incredible the first 2 weeks. So,
I mean, it's. We knew that the touchdowns would revert. I mean, he had three touchdowns last year, and he's had 3 in 2 games now. You're going to see Woods continue to get involved. This is just to highlight, what touchdowns can do,
right.
to a player's overall ranking early on. But also highlights to, because they were both pretty much going at the same time. I
Right.
made a lot of unfortunate mistakes. I took Woods over Kupp.
I think a lot of
also have a
people
lot of-
took Woods over Kupp because of the way
I also
Kupp.
have a lot of Kupp because they were always both, to me, a value. So,
Well, and I have a lot of Kupp because I have a lot of Dynasty Kupp. So,
Dynasty Kupp. Love it.
all right, and then the Bucs wide receivers, you're calling this one out, and I agree with calling this one out. So, a lot was made about Antonio Brown. Brown's been the efficient one on fewer snaps. He's clearly running third in snap share. Evans, Godwin, both been solid, kind of reprising their roles from last year. Godwin's the clear one.
Yeah, I mean, he's been productive in both weeks. He's who Tom likes to lean on. Evans is a clear 2. Wide receiver 2 with obviously upside given that offense. And Brown, when he's going to have these boom weeks. I mean, majority of his production came in week 1.
Right, and then he
Nearly every production came in
fell
week
off
1.
a bit last week. So
Yeah, and you're going to see, and I think with Brown, and the case you have to make is they went from playing Dallas, a prolific offense that can force a shootout to Atlanta, where they're going to likely get up early, and they're not going to need to have a 3 receiver set on most possessions. You're going to see that increase in the running game, and Brady just using both Godwin and Evans, and then Gronk. Gronk's been fucking insane.
Yeah.
So, want to highlight that for those that have been wondering what the Bucs situation looks like. Look, if the Bucs are facing against a high offense with a good quarterback, Brown's probably in for a nice week. At least he's going to see an increase in snaps over his season average.
Sure. All right. Let's do a beer review, and then let's go ahead and try to fly through some of these previews a bit.
Yeah.
Beer review.
Go ahead, Dan.
So again, I am drinking barrel age batch 100. Or it's the bottle. It says batch 100. This is from Buzzbomb. This is a hyper local brewery to the Springfield area. This is taking their bar fight brown and then aging it. I forgot what they aged it in. I want to say it was 4 roses for 14 or 15 months. It's a brown ale base, so it's not going to be as heavy as a stout or porter. It's going to drink a little bit more of that medium body. And that really stays the same. It's not a heavy mouthfeel at all. It doesn't have a whole lot of body to it in terms of thickness, but it's got a lot of flavor. I don't get as much of the barrel on this. I don't know if having this sit in my fridge for what feels like 2 years and having the aging process be for 14 or 15 months. I don't know if that's just the barrel didn't take as much in.
It's usually that. There's a lot of variance in that. There's a Weller 107 barrel that I know that like Old Harold has stuff in just because of my relationship with Derek, and it's not imparting hardly anything. So for a lot of craft distilleries like that, you just make it a barrel that doesn't impart a lot on the beer.
Yeah, which makes this also a bit dangerous sitting at 14%, and you get no barrel to it. There's people I know that prefer no barrel, getting very little to no barrel on their barrel aged drinks. They don't want to, taste the booze. They want to be able to just feel the effects from it. So it's all based on preference and what you prefer. I'm wondering if it being a brown ale base also has that effect to it because it's not as rich as a stout or porter to begin with. But overall, it's great. I support these guys 1,000%. So.
Yeah, for a brown ale base, I think it would actually stand out more because the flavors aren't quite as big, right? I would think that with sorry, I'm gonna go beer nerd for a little bit. I would think that with the the stout base that you'd hide that a little bit more, and that's why with stouts and when they're barrel aged, I like the vanillins to impart a little bit more because I think they're very complementary. For a brown ale, which is normally nutty, maybe slightly caramely, maybe a hint of chocolate, I would think that the barrel would impart more on that because the beer itself is generally less bold than what a stout is.
I will say this. So there are subtle hints of vanilla. And I get a fair amount of a cherry on the back end. Generally, it's the immediate aftertaste after the swallow. I get a lot of
that very well could be 4 roses because they have yeast depending on what recipe was in that barrel. They have yeast strains that impart a ton of cherry.
So I'm pretty sure it was. I may be wrong. It's been a while since we talked, and it's not on the barrel. It's most breweries won't say what they age it in because most breweries don't get permission.
I also get a ton of those notes out of Buffalo Trace too, by the way, of cherry notes.
I know it's not Buffalo Trace. I know they tried to get a Buffalo Trace barrel from us when I worked at Benny's, but
there's a lot of variants in Four Roses recipes because they have 10. They have 10 different recipes, right? You go in and a lot of their stuff is blends of that. The single barrels you buy on the shelf regularly are one recipe, but if you buy like a store pick, there are going to be different recipes on the side, and those different recipes will have different characters. The thing is that because like the regular releases of a small batch or a yellow label or a small batch select are blends of various different recipes.
Yeah.
You don't really know what you can say Four Roses, but there's still really 10 unique whiskeys that could have come out of that barrel. But
That's
I do
true.
know
I
that
mean, yeah.
some of them very, very much impart a cherry note. Also, a little lesson on Four Roses for those at home. You can go see the whole thing on their website, and it breaks down like what recipes are in each thing, and will actually tell you what notes you typically get out of each recipe as they vary rye content and yeast strains. So,
Love it. What about you?
Float's a very, very good hazy. It's a little bit sweet, so it's not overly dry. It's got. Hold on. Yeah, it's got a lot of pleasant, like juicy pineapple. Not heavy citrus, more a lot of pineapple type notes up front. Very juicy, and then very nicely balanced with the bittering hops on the back end. Don't get a lot of floral notes. Don't get a huge amount of piney notes. It's more a little sweet up front, a little bit juicy, and then comes and balances out very nicely with just a little kiss of bitterness on the back end. They did a really good job with it. It's one of my, I tend to stay away from hazies because they're so overdone, but this one definitely to me stands out. I think I could pick this one out of a lineup. It's very unique, but it's very well balanced and very good.
Good.
Kind of close to M43 for me.
Oh, I love M43.
I got one left. I'll bring it this weekend. So you can try it. I think you'll really enjoy it.
Yes.
All right, cool. I don't have FanDuel pulled up because I know we're going to go over odds again on Sunday, so you can mention them. Panthers, Texans. Panthers favored by 1 billion.
Sorry, I had it. Panthers. So Panthers, Texans. Panthers are favored by 7.5. The over/under of 43.5. Panthers are on the road. This is a respect to the Panthers defense, and obviously with Davis Mills making his first start, I'm surprised the over/under is. I mean, it's low, which makes sense. The spread's high, and we know that with Darnold and this Carolina team, they're not going to
put up a ton of points.
Yeah, and they're also not going to go up tempo. So if they get up by a touchdown or 10 plus points, it's going to be a slow pace. Watch out for the backdoor cover from Houston. Given the slow pace offense, when you see these spreads that are over a touchdown, it can get a little bit intimidating. I like the under. Under's odds are obviously a little bit more than the over. I would also say there's no need to play this game if you don't want to bet it. It's going to be ugly.
No, I would agree with that. From a fantasy perspective, again, for the Panthers, you'd expect this one to be relatively low volume. That's okay. DJ Moore's gotten the majority of the volume. You're okay with that. Obviously, CMC. This is not a situation where I'm looking to stream Sam Darnold. It's a good matchup. We just lamented how good he's been. But I don't think the game script dictates that, given the fact that you do have CMC, and I expect the Panthers to be mostly ahead of this with their good defense. Don't see a ton of volume for Darnold. If you start him, you're hoping for a hyper-efficient day, and I don't really see him giving you like 275 and 220 and 3 touchdowns either. So
it's not a sexy stream. I am, as someone who has a lot of DJ Moore on his dynasty roster, I'm also very happy to see that the targets have now been consolidated down to really just.
Which goes into the bad trade I mentioned earlier, because it was a there's a Chris Godwin for Robbie Anderson and Damian Harris.
Ooh,
yeah, not good.
Ooh. I mean, I'm assuming you got Robbie and Harris.
I'd be getting Robbie and Harris, trading away Godwin, which I'm not going to do.
Okay. You haven't done it.
No, I'm not making that trade. It was offered to me earlier today, and I haven't responded to it yet. But because I was waiting until I go through waivers, no, redraft.
Oh, God, it's even worse.
Yeah, so it's absolutely not. And on a team where I have Carson, Deandre Swift, and Derrick Henry. So I
Why would
don't
he offer-
necessarily need Damian Harris.
Why would he offer two players that are coming off of down weeks? That's odd. I know
because-
Damian had the touchdown, but
Trying to get a good deal, and the thing is that I'm not a good team to trade with right now because everything that I have that's good is starting, and I don't have depth anywhere. So
redraft.
I'm not a good team to want to trade with there. Anyway, for the Texans, it's Brandin Cooks and only Brandin Cooks. I'm not going to bet on any of the running backs. I want to see how that lands a little bit. If you're in a serious pinch with Davis Mills, with them playing from behind, David Johnson has gotten the majority of the target volume. That is not a recommendation to start David Johnson. That is if you are somehow in a very
look
big
somewhere
pinch.
else. Just please, it's
But
Thursday
you can look
night.
somewhere else.
There's gotta be something out there.
Right.
Hey, please
It's-
don't let David Johnson be your RB2. Like,
Right.
We have better options, please.
He should have been your third or fourth running back drafted. Probably your fourth.
He should have been your fourth. Yeah. Oof.
And there's been no significant running back.
Go pick up
injuries.
Cordero
What's the
Patterson
news?
if you
What's the
wanna
news
run
on
back.
Dalvin Cook?
Is there news on Dalvin Cook?
I don't know. I
He was
thought
banged up. He was banged up multiple times.
should be okay though. Anyway, Brandin Cooks and nothing else for Houston. That's because he's getting consolidated target volume, and they'll be playing from behind.
Next game. Cardinals at Jacksonville. Cardinals 7.5 point favorites. That feels low. Over under a 51.5.
Really low.
Um,
How? I guess here's what I don't understand. How are the Cardinals only favored by 7 and the over/under is 51.5?
I think they expect a lot of scoring. This is gonna.
Well, I get it, but why?
and
What has Jacksonville showed you to expect a lot of scoring? Or is it more so what the Cardinals haven't shown you?
It's more so that the Cardinals secondary isn't very good.
It's not very good.
And maybe Vegas expects Jacksonville's offensive line to protect enough, or the fact that Lawrence is going to throw the ball 50, 60 times and he's throwing multiple touchdowns. He's thrown multiple interceptions, but he's also throwing multiple touchdowns
in
each
both
week.
games.
So there's been production from Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
Everything feels like a trap game. I mean, Minnesota looked rough against the Bengals. They come out and look great against the Cardinals. Should have won that game. 7.5 feels like it's going to get bet heavy on. And in fact, Jacksonville is plus 7.5 is getting better. It's getting worse odds. I feel like this line is going to move up at least half a point to -8, if not more.
I think it will too. I think that we're going to come back Sunday and that's going to change because that is, for a 51-point over/under, that spread is very low, in my opinion.
I think 51.5 feels low. Feels low-ish. Still a lot of points, and you have to hope that Jacksonville. Maybe their concern is that the Cardinals get up early. And
Right.
this becomes more of a Chase Edmonds, James Conner game, which it won't. I mean, it's Cliff. He's been up tempo his whole time in Arizona. Like it's
Yeah. Anyway.
feels odd. But this is a game you may want to target for Jacksonville in terms of flex players with the
It
potential
is for-
loss of Chenault that consolidate the targets to DJ Chark and Marvin Jones. And those are two players that you want to throw out in your flex options and play in DFS. They're going to likely be available. Not Chark maybe, but Marvin Jones should be
Chenault's
available.
expected to play.
Is he expected to play now?
Yes.
It's those three guys, which is
That's why I didn't put
So
anything
fine.
about him in the news. So
okay.
it is those three guys, and I think you could take a dart throw at either one of the three. They're going to be playing from behind, right? So,
And Chenault will likely be dropped because he had 7 targets and -2 yards against Denver last week. So,
yes, he did.
God.
Completely different game, though, right? Denver's got a hell of a secondary.
Yeah, this should be. This is one of my favorite games to look at stacking wise. In terms of attacking it from that standpoint and from a betting standpoint, I think you look at it the same. I think Cardinals cover and this game goes over.
Yep. His second targets, Chenault, is just ahead of DJ Chark, who's only caught 4 of his 16, but for 105 yards.
He's all downfield. He is their he's their Z. He's their deep threat. Jones is more of that flanker.
Yeah.
And Chenault is getting more underneath work because of the loss Travis Etienne. So,
Yep. And for the Cardinals, look, Jacksonville's a start everybody type of matchup. I know that people are going to be gun shy on James Conner. If they're up, you're going to see Conner.
don't start James Conner. Just fuck James Conner. He's been so.
You shouldn't have to.
I haven't looked at much. I prayed again. Just go pick up Cordell Patterson if you want to play a fringe running back. At least he's getting the usage.
Chase Edmonds, though, is a good start.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You're going to start all your main guys for Arizona, and I like even Jacksonville. I don't know if I may even play Trevor Lawrence. At least he's going to have
I was
going to
mention Trevor Lawrence as a streaming candidate this week because Trevor Lawrence is going to have a lot of volume, and again, it's not a great secondary, and as long as they can really block, Chandler Jones and or Budda Baker, you're okay.
Yep. All right. Colts Titans. Titans are favored 5.5 at home. A 48.5 over under. Expect this to change as we hear
more about Wentz.
I think the spread and the game total is based on Wentz playing.
Yeah, I think so too. And like I said, he very well might, but this is a game that you're going to have to tune in Sunday to get a lot of analysis on. What I'll say is this, and I said it earlier, so we don't need to preview this one a lot because we kind of already did. Tennessee is giving up a ton of points to wide receivers right now. You can chase Michael Pittman points here. And then I think that Nyheim Hines is going to be, given the way this is probably going to look regardless of who starts, is going to be in line for a lot of targets in this one in PPR.
And Jonathan Taylor had one less target than Nyheim Hines.
Right, you're going to play Taylor regardless.
Obviously, yeah, obviously.
And for the Titans, look, the Titans are becoming, and normally are, very, very predictable in what you do with them. So I'm not gonna go into that. Julio's been fine. AJ Brown had a rough week, but given the capital you put into him, you're not scared of a trend yet. Colts have just been kind of okay. And, you're never sitting Henry. So, again, this is why we don't like doing start-sits on everything, because the Titans are very, very much a chalk team.
Yeah, and that just speaks to all the touches being consolidated to essentially 3 players.
Yeah.
From a betting standpoint, it's Tennessee just finds way to get back there covered. And even if Eason is out, 5.5 points doesn't feel like a lot. It's obviously half a point less than what a touchdown is. And
Mash show.
This feels match show. It feels like a heavy Tennessee bet game, especially when it's announced that Eason's the starter. Now, if I say stay away from the spread and bet the over.
Yeah. What's the over under again?
48.5. I think this will be more neutral. I don't expect this line.
And I think the Colts
much.
will be able to run anyway. I'd expect that to go 48.5 over.
You're hoping for Colts rushing production early while Tennessee pulls away.
And you should.
That's how this game pushes over.
You should get that. So
yeah. All right. Baltimore, Detroit at Detroit. Baltimore 7.5 point favorites on the road. A 49.5 over under. Baltimore's given up a lot of points the first 2 weeks. This is an improved Raiders team and the Chiefs. So take their game totals with the grain of salt.
I actually kind of like Detroit to cover in this one. And Detroit has... Look, they look not good the second half against Green Bay, who adjusted well. It started to rain, and there were a decent amount of mistakes where they shot themselves in the foot. If they can get that cleaned up, they look good in the first half, and they've played a lot better than I think people have expected them to.
It's the
Detroit
offense. The offensive line has been very good.
And Goff has thrived behind it, and he's thrown a little mobility, too.
He's had all day to throw, at least in a lot of it. I agree with the weather change. Things started to get a little more dicey for him. Goal line got to hit a little bit harder in that second half, but they've looked great for the first 2 games. Goff's being protected, and a team that's going to play slow. You have 2 teams that want to play slow. I agree with you. I think 7.5 is a lot of points for 2 teams that don't want to push the pace, and that if one of them gets the lead, they're really going to try to slow it down.
Mm-hmm.
49.5 feels like a bit high, and I think the under is an okay call here. Again, we know that Detroit can come back. They've played despite what they did against Green Bay, they made a massive comeback against the Niners. Baltimore's defense is still banged up.
If Detroit can put together a complete game against a beat-up Baltimore defense, they're going to cover.
Yeah, I think that I think you take the points in Detroit. I wouldn't bet the game total. That's my opinion.
And then, as far as from a fantasy perspective, look, Hollywood Brown we haven't talked about. Hollywood Brown's been good.
Rashad Bateman's still on IR. He's got 1 week left until he can come off of it. Brown's been the most productive. He's been the most trusted receiving option there.
So, much like Pittman against Tennessee, you can chase the Hollywood Brown points against Detroit.
I mean, I would keep it. I would also do the same. This running game is been very efficient. There's no trusted running back there. And I think this increase in passing attempts and dropbacks for Lamar Jackson is by no means surprising, and Hollywood Brown has been the most productive with it and should be.
Yeah, so the touchdowns in each of the last couple weeks, 16 targets, 12 receptions, been very good. So, yeah, you can start Hollywood.
Yeah.
Very much.
Detroit's also the same. Hawk, Swift, and I think Goff's got a little streamer value to him.
It's Hawk, Swift, and Goff does have streamer value. Again, they're going to run through two people until a wide receiver breaks out. That has not happened yet. We saw some signs of life out of Cephas, who I think is who they want to target. Trinity Benson was also getting work, though. St. Brown's not been off to a hot start. So
Quintus Cephas, 7 targets back-to-back weeks with touchdowns. Each team's going to eventually going to have. Yeah, he's going to always be that. Okay, he's going to at least have the target volume. In deep leagues, he should be rostered. Mm-hmm. And in deep starting formats, he does have flex-worthy value to him.
And for Baltimore, by the way, the running back situation is basically this. Latavius Murray vultured a touchdown after he's still getting acclimated, but not a great week. Devonta Freeman, you don't need to worry about. Tyson Williams is fringe flex play. It's against Detroit, so probably a little more than fringe this week. I'd go ahead and start him with a little bit of confidence, but yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
You don't love it, but
at least Williams is being.
He's as good as half of everybody else you can start in this world of rotating backs. Williams has some value in a game where Baltimore could be ahead, even though we like Detroit to cover. So,
no, I agree, and it's going to be, if not ahead, at least if it's neutral game script, which I don't see Detroit going up multiple touchdowns in the second half. So, at worst, it's neutral game script.
And boy, did Aaron Jones show that you can exploit the Lions that way.
Oh, my God. Well, Baltimore doesn't have an Aaron Jones in this offense, so.
They don't. But, you know what? Maybe the closest thing you have, big body-wise, down by the goal line is Latavius Murray.
Maybe Tyson Williams is also, they're both big.
Maybe you get a multiple Latavius Murray touchdown game. I'd like to see goal line carries for both of them after the first couple of weeks. But anyway.
Please, no. All right. Washington, Buffalo. Buffalo at home, 8.5-point favorites, 45.5 over under. This mirrors the Buffalo Pittsburgh game a little bit.
It's kind of what we talked about earlier, is that this should be a lot like Buffalo Pittsburgh. I like Washington to cover that 8.5.
I like Washington to cover.
I like Buffalo to win, but I like Washington to cover.
This would be a fun. You get Buffalo on the tease it down to 2.5. spread and then do a big old parlay with that. But 45.5 game total. I mean, that Pittsburgh game went over. Generally, when you see a defensive touchdown, that generally helps those game totals get higher. So obviously adding 6 to 7 points will do that. So this game the total feels right. And in part to both the over-unders, the same, it's the same value. So I stay away from that. I take Washington in the points.
Yeah. And moving on from that, Terry McLaurin, obviously, you're going for it. J.D. McKissick, I would not go chasing targets in this one because I don't know that they'll need to throw to him. quite that often. I want to see that in back-to-back weeks before I go say run after the J.D. McKissick PPR points. Gibson, you're obviously fine with. Look, the Bills, I would like to make a prediction on the running game, but the fact is it's a very good front seven for the football team, and it was, really Singletary in week 1, Moss in week 2, despite a good Singletary run. So
Shit on shit. Yeah,
right,
shit
so you're going to have
shit.
we need to see that stabilize a little bit. I would probably avoid that backfield this week against Washington. It's not to say someone won't be productive. It's just they can't put a flag on who's going to be productive, and I think you have a little bit more predictable production you can put in at that third running back spot, or by third running back slot, I mean flex.
Yes.
And then it's Diggs basically for Buffalo. I don't want to go given this pass rush. Beasley has upside because he's going to work a lot of your shorter routes.
Emmanuel Sanders is getting a lot of deep shots.
I don't think they're going to have time to work it deep here though with the pass rush from Washington.
He'll get
it's a bad time to predict
he'll
deep
get
shots.
he'll get his shots. They just won't pass it deep. I think you're gonna start seeing some Josh Allen questions. Josh Allen or this guy, Josh Allen or that guy.
I think so too, and that's okay this week because close game could mirror Pittsburgh. He's going to be under fire. That's all right. It's still probably going to be Josh Allen in most situations unless you've got somebody else sitting on your roster, right? But, you could ask me Josh Allen or Trevor Lawrence this week, for example. I might have to think about that one a little bit given that matchup.
It's unless you're playing in games with heavy negative to quarterback inefficiencies or turnovers, like Scott Fishbowl or the Bourbon Bowl, then maybe you want to look a little differently than that. But yeah, you're right. Josh Allen at least is giving you some of the rushing production, but as we talked about earlier, the efficiencies dropped and the volume may also be the same.
Yep.
So, all right. Saints Patriots at home favored by 3.
Jesus,
41 and a half.
Patriots only favored by 3
at home.
Yeah,
I'm not shocked because both teams are very slow pace and they don't score a lot. I know what they did against Green Bay. The Saints did in week 1.
That was hyper efficiency though. That's not going to be repeatable against.
We've seen come 2 different sides of the Saints. We haven't seen a middle yet because obviously week 3 there's only been 2 games played, but we've seen it's been great week 1 and horrible in week 2. New England's got a great defense. I think 3 points seems fair. I would probably just if I'm betting this game, I'm throwing the Patriots money line on a parlay.
So yeah,
I'm definitely staying away from the game totals because I
don't want to play the game totals.
It's almost like it's too low. It's too low.
But I like the Patriots at 3. I think that's
fair too.
Very reasonable. I like the Patriots plus 3. As far as fantasy goes, again, we've seen 2 different sides to the Saints. So what are you going to get? I'm obviously okay with Damian Harris in this one. You haven't necessarily seen a breakout performance amongst New England wide receivers or tight ends yet. So not really going to bet on those because the Saints defense can play at an elite level. They just don't do it consistently.
Yeah.
And
Marshall Lattimore did not also play last week.
And we'll have to keep an eye on that as well.
That'll obviously change.
Right. As for New Orleans, Camara, and I don't know that I want anything else because there's still too many people hurt. Not a lot of efficiency happening there, and New England's defenses look relatively good.
Yeah. Even Camara, who's, again, also off to a horrid start. He had 5 rushing yards last week.
Yeah, the whole team had a bad game last week.
It was 6 targets. Obviously, not benching Camara.
That offense is in bad shape, and it's not Jameis's fault. It's the fact that there's nobody to throw footballs to right now.
It's gross.
Not a single damn person.
All right. Let's move on to a fun game, please. All right. Chargers Chiefs at Kansas City. Kansas City is 6.5 point favorites.
Fair.
55.5 over under. Herbert, kind of like Josh Allen, has not gotten off the start that we want to see, despite having what seemed to be a plus matchup in week 2. I mean, that whole game last week against Dallas was unexpected, and a lot of people expected fireworks in that game.
Right, Dallas defense played better. He threw 41 times.
Dallas defense is good. Like,
it was really the 2 picks that offset that, right? If one of those picks just flipped over to a touchdown, he had a solid day. He's gone for over 300 yards in both of the first 2 games. He'll have to do that against the Chiefs. Completion percentage has been fine. The attempts are there. The only thing you're really missing from Herbert is touchdowns, and you need the interceptions to go away. Good news there.
they get the Chiefs.
Chiefs are not known for being ball hawks. So it's actually a really, really good game for Herbert. And if you're looking at it, and I'm all over Keenan Allen. Mike Williams right now is a must start the way that he's been playing.
Especially, he has been very good.
Especially in this offense. We haven't talked a lot about him, but Mike Williams is off to a very, very good start. And Austin Eckler's been solid. So for me, you're running 4 Chargers out there in this one.
Yep, and again,
confident.
We know the Chiefs.
Yeah,
Mahomes, Hill, Kelsey, and you're probably going to have to play CEH, but in hopes that he gets some passing volume and sneaks in a touchdown. This is a very chalk game as these 2 teams consolidate their targets to just a few players.
Yeah,
so.
And the good news about CEH is that Dallas just put up pretty good rushing numbers against the Chargers because while the pass rush is good, the run defense isn't fantastic, and a little less inspiring from the football team who dealt with quarterback injury midway through and is a little less efficient at that. So a little bit of a get right game for CEH. He's at least going to have flex value, so you plug him in.
Yeah, I don't expect him to get the rushing attempts, but I think he'll be efficient with this.
I don't think he's going to blow up, but I think he'll be all right.
Bears, Browns. Browns are 7.5-point favorites at home at a 46.5 over under in Justin Fields' first game. I like the under here. I'll bet against a rookie quarterback maybe in his first career start against a very difficult Browns team.
Huh.
It's tough. I mean, Houston was productive against them, but Ty God's been a journeyman his whole career and has been productive in multiple teams. And they play Kansas City week 1. We don't really know just how good this Browns defense is against a team that has the makeup of Chicago's.
Right. My concern more comes in with the Bears defense for Cleveland. So again, this is another game where I really like the early spread of Chicago at less than a touchdown, Chicago at 7.5, right?
Yeah.
Because this is a game where how's it going to go? You're going to have Justin Fields as a more dynamic player making his first start. He's going to have a little bit of a problem with running backs. He is returning to Ohio. Can't get past the emotion there. Sure. David Montgomery's been very, very good the first couple weeks, but the Browns, I don't believe, have given up a lot on the ground. I mean, Edwards-Helaire being what Clyde is, but they didn't give up a lot to the Texans either, so you're going to get to see how that goes. You're not sitting David Montgomery at this point. But where I think the big variance here is from a betting point that makes me confident in this is, it's Odell Beckham and Jalen Johnson. Odell's coming off of an injury. Jalen Johnson's been the best quarterback in the game the first couple of years. You can attack the Bears through your secondary and tertiary wide receivers, but the Bengals weren't really able to do that. So
this is all going to come down to the running game. Bears did well against Mixon last week. Henderson didn't get over 100 yards, but he averaged over 4 yards per clip and was clearly when that game got a little bit out of hand and got a lot of that volume there.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to see Cleveland. They don't need to lean on this running game. Odell, we're going to have to see how he fits year 2 with Stefanski.
This is game where
you can definitely see. I definitely could see the Bears covering this.
I can see the Bears covering this game too. I think Cleveland wins, but I can definitely see the Bears covering the spread. And this is a game where I really think that you're going to see a breakout from Anthony Schwartz or Peoples-Jones if they're out of the doghouse, because I don't think, well, they'll be able to run against the Bears. I don't think they'll be able to dominate the Bears in the running game.
Yeah, that I agree with.
And, they're a little thin in the passing game, right? The Bears have a good safety to take care of your tight ends in Eddie Jackson. So they're going to have to win it. Your matchup differences are going to be the second and third wide receivers against the fact that the Bears don't have a good second and third cornerback. David Montgomery will have an okay game. Nick Chubb will get his. Kareem Hunt will be fine as a flex play. I might fade away from Hunt a little bit this week. But
this could feel like Nick Chubb doesn't look great first half.
And eventually wears him down.
Eventually wears him down, as Cleveland sticks to the running game because they're up multiple touchdowns. It's very difficult because you have a rookie quarterback making a starting debut who looked pretty much human last week in his cleanup duty in the second half. So
right. It's very
if you want to stay away from this game, I don't have any issues with that. I think I'll still take Cleveland in the points. This feels like a game even for Cleveland to kind of bounce back from.
See, I think I'll probably take the Bears. I hate betting on the Bears, but I'll probably take them to cover that 7.5 point spread because
I feel the same way about the Vikings.
I very much feel like they can cover that 7.5 point spread. This is a game.
I think there's a realm of outcome for it too.
I think there is too.
I do see that. So, all right, let's get on to fantasy viable. Like I said, Montgomery, Robinson.
Robinson
talked about the Browns. So
yeah, the Browns have given up some points to wide receivers. So Robinson has got to show it this week, but you're still keeping him in there. And like you said, Montgomery's going to be okay for the Browns. Odell coming back, a lot of people are going to want to chase that. I think it's a bad week to do it.
Thankfully, he wasn't. I mean, he was probably a lot of wide receiver. If you went RB heavy too, maybe
he was
a 7th, 8th, 9th round pick. 6th,
right, coming off the injury, and it is his first game back from injury. And again, he's going to be drawing a cornerback matchup of somebody who's played very, very well. So I don't love chasing Odell. For the Browns, I may just be Nick Chubb. It's not that I don't like Schwartz or Peoples-Jones. It's that Schwartz did have the costly fumble. I think somebody is going to have a big game there that isn't Odell Beckham. I just don't know who it's going to be.
I would still. I mean, Baker and 2 QB. I mean, he's been so.
Baker and 2 QB
just hasn't been there.
Baker and 2 QB, I'm fine with.
So I'm seeing Jalen Johnson on Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah,
as the primary guy against on him. Odell may not draw.
Maybe not. They may move Odell around, but also coming off of injury, right? The other thing that concerns me with that is that the Bengals have 3 very good wide receivers. And while Chase saved his day with a touchdown and Higgins is all right at 5 for 60 and 1, those aren't blow you away numbers.
No, I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying that Odell may not be facing Jalen Johnson throughout.
No, and I don't think he will
matchup.
Because Odell will go into the slot too and Johnson will not. So,
especially without Jarvis, you may see Odell operate.
And that may be a way that Cleveland tries to create it may be how Cleveland tries to create a mismatch.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Bengals
if I'm dart throwing, it's Schwartz, honestly. Schwartz is a DFS play.
I'm not dart throwing at any of these. They're just not getting the volume consistently. I mean, I would rather take my dart throws on other pieces if I'm going to go that route. On other teams.
I'll throw Schwartz into a DFS lineup.
That's yeah. If you're playing a lot, sure. Bengals, Steelers. 3.5 point favorites at home. 43.5 over under. Pittsburgh defense is very good. Cincinnati struggled against Chicago, whose defense is not as good as Pittsburgh's, but
Right.
can still be prolific because there's still a lot of playmakers on that side of the ball.
I have to watch T.J. Watt if he's going to play.
That's also
I have to watch
a
Joe
big
Hayden
thing.
if he's going to play.
Yeah. Expect this line to change as we get some of the more important.
This might be more of
defensive pieces
a
come
revisited on Sunday type of situation.
Yeah, we'll go back. As for fantasy, I think it's pretty clear. Mixon, Higgins, Chase. I don't know if 43.5 is not a lot. There's not a lot of expected points to be scored.
Yeah, and even Chase, right? I mean, he caught a big touchdown last week, and that's the only thing that kept him safe in a tighter matchup. If you can go away from that, I might.
We just know that's where the vault. Yeah, I mean, it's not three of these receivers, besides maybe Higgins, was drafted. I mean, Chase early on in the offseason was drafted pretty highly, but they faded off towards the end. So depending on your other options, I don't think it's the worst idea to pivot off of the receivers if you believe this game is going to be low scoring, which Vegas is trying to tell us that.
Yeah, and again, part of the reason that I'm leaning that way is, Higgins last week saw 10 targets. Chase saw 4, just saved his day with a long touchdown. So Boyd had 9. Just looking at that from last week. And
so Chase probably drew Jalen Johnson, and they went with the other pieces because why attack a good cornerback when you have viable options elsewhere?
Right, and if that's how they're going to play them, then, Steelers, same's probably going to hold true. So I'm kind of in avoid Chase. I'm comfortable with Higgins.
It could still be where teams want to highlight their number one corner. You're going to pick Higgins. You're going to pick Chase.
Right.
You may see that fluctuate throughout. All right, we'll come back to that on Sunday with a little bit more information.
Especially with Pittsburgh because of Deontay. Right now, Najee Harris you're fine with. We'll come back to the wide receivers on Sunday when we have Johnson news.
All right, let's move on to a shittier game as we kind of speed up through this. Giants-Falcons. Giants are 3-point favorites. 48.5 over-under. Two struggling teams. One of them struggling more than the other. Daniel Jones has looked fine. I think he's stream worthy in this matchup.
He is.
Sterling Shepard's been a very, very nice wide receiver too.
He has been a very nice wide receiver too. A lot of volume going his way. Not a lot of volume going anywhere else in that Giants offense. It's been basically Shepard, Daniel Jones with those legs. Saquon Barkley we saw improve last week. I'd expect that to continue
just get
as
healthier.
well.
Hopefully he's just getting
healthier, and this is not a good defense at all. So this is a good benchmark game for where Saquon is if he continues to improve.
In Atlanta, it's really just Pitts and Ridley. We have to kind of continue to see how the running backfield is. Patterson's been easily the most productive running back between him and Davis, but Davis is still getting, I think, the majority of the snaps and touches.
And Patterson got a lot of, receiving work too, and is also wide receiver eligible. So in a lot of places.
Yeah, it's still a gross game to target. So I would try to avoid this.
I would too, but could do worse than a Patterson stream.
True.
You need a running back.
All right.
You shouldn't.
If you need a running back, just look for Patterson. Dolphins, Raiders. Raiders are only 3.5-point favorites at home. The 45.5 over under. Look, this is going to be really dependent on Tua. I think the spread might be in favor of Tua playing, but Tua's looked pretty below average to start off the year. And the Raiders have had 2 incredible wins, beating both Baltimore and the Steelers. So I like Raiders. I like the 3.5 spread, and the over/under I'll probably stay away from. I don't trust this Miami offense right now.
Yeah, I don't trust the Miami offense right now either, especially again, this is going to be a Sunday thing with Tua coming back. But, I mean, there's not been a wide receiver that stood out yet. There's not been a running back that stood out yet.
Gaskin is getting so much more snaps, and for some reason, it's just not getting the touches,
Yeah.
which is a bit concerning,
And
given the fact that it's just Ahmed and Brown who have also done shit with their touches.
Mckissick is not
Yeah.
off to a fast start, so I'm with
There's
you.
nothing here to play.
No, not for
At
Miami.
I mean, you may have to play Gaskin because of where you took him
Yeah.
and because of the lack of viable running back options at this moment, but it's pretty gross. And then the Raiders, I think it's pretty simple. I think you can start streaming Carr, and obviously you're playing Darren Waller. And then, again, this is not where the targets are being consolidated to one or two. It's Darren Waller and everybody else.
Yep.
And
Hunter
you can get
Renfro's
across the Renfro, but I don't think they're going to be in comeback mode like they were against Pittsburgh.
I don't think
Or
they
they
will
kept a little
either.
more
So,
up-tempo.
I mean, Hunter Renfro, you can kind of meh. Hunter Renfro is always going to be kind of meh, right? He's a guy you have on your roster for when you catch an injury. You're not going to rush out and start him, and Brian Edwards is not getting the target volume right now to justify it. He's a fine if you're in a pinch start, but he's not somebody you have to run out and start.
Yeah, and they may not need to throw as much, so we'll see.
And then Kenyon Drake, if you need a back because of running back landscape, right? I mean,
yeah, you're right.
Miami's
Fuck Peyton Barber, so
yeah, work for Peyton Barber. Drake will also catch a lot of passes.
all right. Let's keep moving this along. Jets, Broncos. Broncos 10.5-point favorites at home. A 41.5. This is the ultra disrespect to Zach Wilson-led Jets offense. Look, I'm not playing anybody from New York.
No,
Like,
I'm not
there's
either. What I'm really watching
nothing.
is Ty Johnson and Michael Carter, who both had flex-ish kind of, not really even flexious kind of days. They just put up similar numbers that were not terrible. So I'm watching both of those guys. I'm not starting anybody on the Jets. Even Corey Davis, who I very, very much like. I don't think that you can justify starting Corey Davis right now either.
Broncos, I think Teddy's a fine second QB in Superflex and 2 QB leagues. I don't really have much of an interest in streaming them in single QB. Sutton is obviously amazing. Fant is also getting a lot of work. And then Tim Patrick, I guess, in a pinch, but I mean, it's one of those games where it could go lopsided early with Denver, and you see them just ride the running game.
No, I'm
Taking
on Sutton,
manager.
and I think that speaking of running the running game, Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon both are going to be
Flex
streamable. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're flex plays. Williams maybe a little bit more so than Gordon. He's been the more efficient of the two.
And Gordon may not need to run as many routes, as many targets. So
As he's been doing, right? They could very
Yeah.
much ride Williams here.
let's go on to the game of the week, at least in my opinion. Bucs Rams at LA, and Bucs are a 1.5 favorites.
Ooh.
55.5 over under.
Poof.
Rams money line is at even money at this point. Good luck. This is a true on.
I'll just take the over.
The disrespect that the Rams are getting at home at 1.5 underdogs.
I'll just take the over.
Both teams want to pass even when they're ahead. This should be the Rams Chiefs game that we got from a few years back where it was like 70 total points.
Give me all of the pass catchers
Start everybody.
except the
Besides
running backs.
besides Ronald
Stay
Jones.
away from the running backs on both teams. Stay away from all of the running backs.
Leonard Fournette at least is getting the passing production, so he's flex value where he's been drafted. So again, running back landscape.
Running back landscape is ugly, but
Watch Jarrell Henderson if he's got banged up. So monitor that. He's been productive as Michelle is getting acclimated into the offense.
and Michelle actually saw 9 carries and was okay. So
Yeah. He kind of came in once
again,
Henderson
running back
got hurt.
landscape is bad. I don't want to on either of them. Look, Henderson, you probably drafted high enough to where you have to. Fournette and Jones, you probably didn't. So
Yeah, I still fine playing Fournette. At least he's getting pass catching work, as Brady has at least been making 5 players relevant in this passing offense. Again, this is play everybody, right?
This
Brown,
is play everybody. It's Brown,
lot of
Cup,
3 receiver
Woods.
sets. Van Jefferson's probably going to
Godwin.
see.
I'm not going to recommend Van Jefferson right now, but
He's on par. He's not. He's again, high volume passing offense. He's on par with snaps with Woods. It's on the field. Again, if you're in a pitch.
yeah, because of 3 wide receiver sets, he's got 6
He's gonna
targets
be-
through the first 2 weeks.
We know, yeah, right. Yeah. So
What did I say about snap counts earlier?
hey, like I said about these high scoring games, if you're going to target flex plays in deep leagues, at least target the highest scoring games. All right. Next one. Seahawks at Minnesota. Seattle is 1.5 point favorites on the road. 55 and a half over under this game as well.
Just
I like
give
the
me
over in this too.
yeah. Give me the
Over
over of
is-
those 2 games we just talked about.
And start all your playmakers. Seattle, it's pretty much you know what you're getting from
It's
your
the same thing with Minnesota. You know who your
Minnesota.
playmakers are.
Even KJ Osborne, who's been
somehow good.
he's been productive in this game. And we know Minnesota will go into a shootout. And,
Should we
Seattle
insult
obviously-
KJ Osborne again, just in case people decide to start KJ Osborne?
Man, he looks ugly as fuck. And he does.
KJ
not.
Osborne
He's
isn't going to
fucking
do
ugly.
shit.
He ain't gonna do shit. Start KJ.
Yeah,
right.
start KJ Osborne. We said this last week, and he went off.
All right.
KJ
Sunday night football. Green Bay at San Francisco. San Francisco is 3.5 point favorites. If 49.5 game total, give me Green Bay.
I'll take Green Bay.
I have not been impressed with San Francisco at all.
I have not
Even though
either.
they did come out and beat Philly, but
Give me
I'm still
Green
not
Bay.
impressed.
Look, Deebo Samuel's off to a hot start with Jair Alexander. I'd expect Alexander to end up on Deebo in this game.
This might finally be
this
your Kittle.
screams a George Kittle game because Green Bay is the worst at pressuring the quarterback. He should not have to block.
Yeah.
This
So play Kittle.
screams George Kittle and screams fade off at Deebo Samuel because I'd expect him to get a healthy dose of Jair Alexander because it ain't going to
Green
be
Bay money
Ayuk.
line. Yeah, and Green Bay money line. Start all your.
Yeah.
You're right.
San Francisco, by the way, I guess we'll talk about the running back situation more on Sunday when we know the status with Mitchell. Right now, it's Mitchell,
Yeah, that too. Yeah. Running back game. Yeah.
and it probably will be anyway, but it's Mitchell. For Green Bay, it's your usual suspects. They've become very predictable to not get cute with, right? Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers.
Fun DFS play for that night game.
Yeah.
MVS is getting
MVS
literally
is-
all the fucking air yards. Rodgers is just not hitting them.
Yeah.
He's getting them. He's getting the targets though, and they're gonna take shots again. So
They're out of sync, and they will take shots. So
they're all right. So that's my one only time I'll give positive analysis. MVS. Last game Monday night. Eagles at Dallas. Dallas 3.5 point favorites. 51.5. Both defenses are better than expected. And, well, Hurts has been as expected, and Dak is kind of fallen to where Dallas's improved defense is not asking of Dak to do more.
improved last. I don't know. I like Dallas in this one.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, I like Dallas at home. Dallas's improved defense is maybe leading
Well-
to the reason why Dak doesn't need to do as much.
Maybe
In games like
improved.
this.
We'll see. They were very good last week, and they got freaking spanked against a really
I
good
mean, they got
with a really good offense though.
They also drew
week one.
4 turnovers against Tampa Bay. So
They did.
I
So
will give them that benefit. They've drawn 6 or 7 turnovers in 2 games.
yeah,
Yeah. So improved defense was. I get nervous because I expected more from this offense, and it's not been
yeah. For Dallas,
for Dallas. It's not.
CeeDee
been
Lamb
as,
has been fine. Cooper was a little disappointing.
got hurt a little bit. Lamb's number 2 in the NFL in targets.
Yeah,
the
so
first 2
you're okay with
weeks,
CeeDee Lamb. It's another game where you start both running backs here. The way that Tony is efficient as Tony Pollard's been.
He's gonna get. I mean, he's on the field more too,
Yeah,
even with Zeke. So I'm fine. I'm fine flexing out Pollard.
yeah. Start both running backs. and CeeDee Lamb. Cooper, we'll keep an eye on that situation.
And as for Philadelphia, I'm sitting Devonta Smith. He's going to draw
Diggs.
Diggs has been one of the best cornerbacks in football through 2 weeks. He's been absolutely amazing. So, not playing Smith hurts. Probably Miles Sanders. That's about it. And
I'm
I guess
with you.
Goddard too, because you might have to. So.
Ertz is on the COVID list too.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Fuck. All right. Well, that's the end of the games, and we will double back to the Sunday games on Sunday.
Right, as we get
And,
injury news and start sits and everything, so make sure you tune in on Sunday.
So you'll get updated on that as well. So
Yep.
that's it. That's the games, folks.
All right, and that's the show, folks. We will be back on Sunday morning.
Bye.
Dan's last show is a single guy, technically speaking. See ya.
See ya.